Nice place, eh? Wow. I like it.
Just a short drive from Kamloops, British Columbia.
Ah!
How you doing, brother?
Mike and Avery are visiting their friend, Rob Druitt.
Welcome, welcome.
Rob owns a company called Western Gasco. They supply us all our gas, our welding supplies.
Guys, meet Mr. T.
And he's got this super cool Diamond T one-ton truck. Pretty gangster.
It's a 1948 Model 509. It came out of a farmer's field in North Dakota.
I love the front end, eh? That is tough. Tough looking.
Founded in Chicago in 1905, the Diamond T Motor Company built a reputation for high-quality, rugged trucks fit for the toughest jobs. But it was their flowing fender lines crowned by a bold grille that earned these stunning workhorses the nickname the Cadillac of trucks.
So, Rob, share the dream with us.
We would like to go Western Gasco colors, and our colors are gray and red.
Cool?
We've been in business for 20 years, and I want to commemorate by building this truck.
Yeah.
This build is important to me because it represents our company, Western Gasco. It will be sort of a calling card for us. Our 20th anniversary is this fall, so it's crucial that the truck is done by then. The cab was grafted onto a 2006 Dodge 2500. The engine was pushed back 6 inches, so we could put a radiator and a intercooler in the front. And the frame was shortened from a long box, 10 inches, to make it a short box. Ronnie is master fabric.
Rob's buddy Ronnie has been working on the Diamond T for months, but with the Gasco anniversary weeks away, he's running out of time to do it on his own.
You guys do great work. You know what? What a great way to finish the truck off by handing it over to you guys.
How many hours you got into this truck so far?
About 250.
So you're looking at 600 more, minimum. They've made a good start, but that's it. They've just made a start. There's a lot of time, work, and money still has to be spent on this rig. What's your budget? I mean, realistically, how much money can you spend on this without getting a divorce?
It'd be my partners divorcing me, Stu and Bill. The number I was given was 50 to 60.
Okay, that ain't gonna cut it. You need tires, you need rims, you need plumbing, you need steering column, you need glass. You'll be at 20, 30 grand right there, I'm just telling you. I think they vastly underestimated what it's gonna cost to bring this thing to completion. So we know what your budget is.
Okay.
We're gonna drag this beautiful piece down to Blair. Blair knows what it takes to give you your dream.
Let's do that then.
Okay, let's pump some air in this thing and get her loaded. We're gonna try to lead them down the path of righteousness. You want something cool, you gotta pay. Is it gonna clear? Oh, it's gonna be close. Okay. This Diamond T deserves a top-notch job. I mean, it's a super cool vehicle. Okay, we'll see you guys. Okay, thanks again. But there's a long way to go to realize Rob's dream.
Hey, look after my truck, eh?
Blair,
The next morning at Rust Bros,
what do you think?
Whoa, it's freaking rough. And that's a lot of hours to finish that, right?
Yeah.
Mike's asked Blair to take a closer look at the Diamond T.
It's got a long ways to go.
This Diamond T is going to require extensive metal fabrication. That's a skill, and it takes a lot of years and a lot of experience. This is what Blair brings to the table.
What's the budget?
You tell me, because he was thinking 60. I says, not happening. I said, I told him.
come so
I
far.
said, I know. Said, not happening.
This isn't cool, man. Look at this. Upper control armor is right there.
Yeah.
Can we weld on a frame like this?
A certified welder can.
Depends. I mean, Cassidy might know about this. She's got the most relevant education.
They've cut out part of the upper control mount. That's an integral part of your suspension. It should be reinforced, and we're just not sure if we can weld on that frame.
Look at this.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Yes.
So that's an incorrect repair. They've cut all this, so now the sway bar is basically useless.
Control mounts connect the sway bar to a vehicle's suspension, stabilizing it during turns, reducing the risk of rolling.
All the force on here could just fold the frame up, right?
Even though Rob and Ron have got 250 hours on this build, the frame has to be good before you can start. First thing, we should get a frame guy here to actually look at it.
Right.
We think it can be fixed, but that's something that's beyond our field of expertise. So what do you think it's gonna take to finish it?
I would tell the client 100 grand, then we can start.
But I'm pretty sure he would balk at over 100.
Yeah,
We have a major, massive safety issue here.
that's right.
We can't go forward until that issue is resolved. Hey, Todd!
Hey, how are ya?
While the Diamond T sits parked,
Don't bite the guy that's selling your junk, Lincoln. Jesus.
So, what
happened?
Mike's called in Todd Schwind of EG Auctions to help him with another problem.
I see more cars here that I never seen before.
There's 1 or 3. We're down to 2 months before I have to give the church their yard back. The only way I can see out of this predicament I've managed to put myself in is we gotta have one more auction.
So you've been buying more cars?
Couple.
He's up to 100, I think.
Mike,
I know. That's
Give
why
me a-
you're... Todd, you're here. You're the problem solver, little buddy. If anybody can do it, Todd can. He auctioned off 500 cars for me last year in 1 day. Here, let's go start at this end. I'll show you what we got. I'm sure we're gonna be very happy if we can get him on board to do the auction this year. Volkswagen panel, 71.
I see lot numbers on these cars. I thought we sold these last year.
A couple of them.
And you bought these back?
Yes.
Okay.
I know, I'm
see.
not very smart.
I see what's happening.
Okay.
Mike has a passion to collect, so I figured that he would continue to buy, but I didn't think I'd be back here within a year.
68 Fargo.
This is sellable, right?
Yeah, I know. 46 Merc Coupe. It's going. We've tried to sell vehicles. I've got rid of 5. There's still 80 more to go. Hey, I'm gonna let the Fireflies go too. All the Fireflies are going. I've got to make some hard decisions, but most of this stuff has to go. Anyway, that's it. Next stop, House of Avery.
Mike and Avery are taking Todd to check out Avery's yard
Oh, let's see what you have, Avery. Let's
Yeah.
see if we can put an auction together here.
to discuss doing an auction of his own.
I even cleaned out the truck this morning. Just for you, Todd.
Oh my God. I'm curious to see what Avery has. I have no clue what we're dealing with.
Todd, this could be a memorable occasion, buddy.
Oh my God. Avery.
Just wait, it gets better.
Holy Avery. My first impression is welcome to the jungle. Oh my. We have grass that is growing 3 to 4 feet high. See what you got here. You got some sleds, you got trucks, you got engines, you got scrap. There's weeds growing all over. It gives the impression to a buyer that it's just been sitting there for years and years. I can't even photograph this stuff unless we get these weeds down. This truck here,
It's a Willock. It's one of 40 that were made.
well, it's a power wagon. It's rare, but what's it gonna sell for? Avery has some stuff of value, but for this particular event, we have to organize his lots in order to be able to sell the product. So we're gonna have a full acreage sale to disperse.
Well, this is nothing.
This isn't it?
No,
No, this
nothing.
is the start.
I got another yard full of stuff.
Now we gotta go to the other property, Todd. The look on Todd's face is like a deer in the headlights, about to get ran over by a semi.
Down the road, Avery has a hillside storage yard.
Okay,
Okay.
well, what do we have here? What the hell is this thing?
This is an Elvis Stillward. It's an amphibious British Army machine.
Why do you have this?
Here's a Nodwell Flex Track.
Like, I don't know what to say about this stuff.
It's been here a while.
That's to keep it hulled down so it won't roll away.
For him, it works fine. That's the way he's stored the stuff. But as an auction promoter and marketer, the biggest challenge is the location. So how many of these you have, like the large equipment?
There's probably 10 pieces.
This stuff is all basically thrown onto the side of a mountain with tall grass and rebar on the ground. It's a huge liability. Listen, we can't sell from here. We don't want to bring buyers up into the side of a mountain, first of all. They're not going to buy it because it's up here.
Get your in one pile. My in one pile.
I wonder if I have enough room in that yard.
You got to weed whack all that stuff. Just want to try to make it one of those events that we
People
had
come
the
to.
first time. People
Yeah.
come to and that we're all proud of.
The got to do with anything?
This is an event for people to come to buy stuff. He doesn't see it that way. He can either do the auction or we don't do the auction. We got to have it in one location, man. That's just the bottom line.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm supposed to meet Rob here.
I'll go get him for you.
Okay, thank you.
At Western Gas Co. in Kelowna, BC,
Rob.
Hey, brother, how are you?
Mike's come to update his client Rob about the Diamond T's many problems.
I gotta have a little chat. We got a place in private here.
Right back there, buddy.
Believe if you're gonna deliver bad news, you should do it in person.
So what's going on?
Looked at the truck. We went over it with a fine-tooth comb.
Okay.
There's some major issues. Parts of the frame that are missing. Some of the wells we don't think are gonna pass inspection. To clear
Jesus.
your alternator, I know you wanted AC, you wanted the turbo, you wanted the intercooler.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yep.
there's gonna be a massive amount of fabrication.
Can we stick to the budget then, or is it?
There's no way, Rob. Blair's figuring the budget with us farming that stuff out.
Right.
You're gonna be somewhere north of 100K, Rob. I mean, that's the number that we think it's gonna take to finish this build.
That's a big number, 6 figures. This is overwhelming. There's a lot more issues than I anticipated, and I'm a little hesitant to take this news to my partners. Okay, so with that 100K, that basically includes all the mechanical,
Yep, running, driving, steering, stopping,
paint, prep, and primer.
no paint.
You're kidding me.
We're going, Rob,
The idea of us doing this project was to have our company colors on it.
it's gonna be another 300 to 400 hours, Rob. There's gonna be 80 years of beautiful patina, and then the Western Gasco faded colors on the door. How sick
get
is
it.
that truck? I mean, you know
get
what
it.
I mean?
I'll have to go back to the partners regarding the budget because this is not what they expected. That price gets out of me. So this is going to be a big sell.
I mean, nobody likes to hear the fact the price is going up, but this is a one-off build. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it, man. I'm really hoping Rob and his partners can find the funds. It's an amazing project, and we'd really like to do it. I'm gonna do some shopping here, and maybe that'll help you with your bill.
I'm going to bill you, okay?
No discounts for me?
Absolutely
Rob,
not.
you're breaking my heart. Avery, shaking, bud.
Later that morning at Wildman Restorations,
I'm just picking away on it.
That looks sick.
It is kind of neat, eh?
Mike stopped by to get an update on Avery's build of a 1941 military half-track vehicle.
I think I got enough pieces and parts and brackets out of all the vehicles I have to take and hopefully build one. There's a half track underneath there.
A few weeks ago,
I can't take anything less than 16 grand.
You know we have two of these, eh?
Avery bought his third half-track.
I'm already into this thing so deep. Can't stop now.
Keep going, Abe.
In the hopes of having enough good pieces to build one machine. But rusty parts have made for slow progress so far.
Some places rusted right to nothing.
What do we got here?
I'm just in the process of starting to with these louvers. So here, it comes up here like this.
Well, how do you get them in the hole?
These shutters, they're designed to open up to give more airflow to the radiator, and if you're on the battlefield, to close up the radiator and give it protection.
It won't go over this.
Hey, no, the cotter pin's still in it.
There's no cotter pin there. You're hallucinating.
I gotta get some glasses on.
You're blind as a bat.
I'm not blind as a bat, Mike.
For 3 years, I've been telling you, go see an eye doctor.
I can see perfectly fine.
From how far away? He can't see up close. He can't read. He's holding books like this. And Avery's arms aren't that long to start with, so he should have had glasses a long time ago. Look at that. It just, right? Like as soon as you move it, it's like it wants to fall out. We need another 1/8 inch just so it doesn't pop out.
Okay, let's pull them apart. There's a small problem here. There's some stuff that ain't quite right with these shutters. We need to get a little bit of length on these pins to keep these things in place.
You should heat them up first and then dry. Okay, where's the socket?
Here. That's
Avery, do not remove when hot.
Oh, it's blistering right now.
Go run it under cold water right now. He's not very careful. When you're dealing with torches, you're dealing with grinders. Never wears goggles. I'm surprised he can see it all.
Oh, it hurts.
Keep it under it, 5 minutes minimum. Normally they say 15 minutes. It's because it just the heat keeps transferring down through the cells.
No kidding.
You just leave it there for another 5 minutes, Ave. I'm actually quite amazed that Avery has any of his original digits left. I mean, it's important to see what you're doing. Okay, I think Avery needs an eye test. How many times do you have to hurt yourself before you smarten up? Avery,
What?
sit down. We're gonna test your far vision and your near vision. Okay, what's that letter?
S.
What's that one?
T.
What's that one?
Does that say stupid on there?
Okay, your far vision good. Let's check your close vision. Okay, can you read this?
I cannot read that.
Right there, the bottom word there. Can you read that? Can you read it now?
Yeah. Glasses.
You need glasses.
Mike, it's bad because I can't read directions on things. You just, not
When
that
have you
I.
ever tried?
Well, it's when you want to.
Yes.
Like seeing them small holes on there.
No.
I know they're there. I know there's. I can't see them.
I mean, I know that he needs glasses. He knows that he needs glasses. You can only fight it for so long. If you can't see, you can't build things. Why don't I make an appointment? I'll hold your hand. It won't hurt at all.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob.
How you doing, brother?
The next day at Rust Bros,
So I spoke to Stu and Bill,
Yeah.
and we're going to up the budget to $85.90.
Okay, I think you're in the ballpark.
Rob's reached a compromise on the Diamond T budget and has come to discuss the next steps.
What are we doing regarding the frame?
So Patrick from PMC,
Yes, he Is he stepping up?
We've asked him. The guy does good work. Yes,
Unbelievable
amazing
work.
builds. He says he's got the expertise and they've got a frame guy, they've got an inspection guy.
So this is in his wheelhouse.
Yes, because if he can take it
man.
and do everything and then bring it back to us, then we'll know what's left of the budget. I'm hoping there's still a couple dollars left so we can make it look pretty. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Mike.
How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Excellent.
They tell me you're the miracle man.
The Miracle Man.
Yes,
I don't
sir.
know about that.
Come here, let's do a walk.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
get under
all
here.
right, let's see. Okay.
Check her out.
Here's where it was shortened.
Okay.
So we had worries if this was gonna pass inspection or not.
Was it sleeved?
No.
No.
Okay, so yeah. I am really concerned about how it was pieced together. It looks a little crafty right now. There'd be for sure some engineering involved to make sure she's gonna be strong enough. It's gonna be tricky. It's gonna be a lot of work.
What do you figure, a week? 10 days?
No. We'd be on this straight for probably 2-3 weeks.
We got a deadline, buddy, for our 20-year anniversary.
But do you have the time?
You could buy time. We work something out on the welding supplies.
Absolutely.
You know, I could probably get her down to like that high 40s, maybe 50, somewhere in there.
If you get into the 40, 50, then we got something left to do the body.
Let's do it. Oh, man.
Patrick's agreed to take on some of the build. Hopefully when we get the Diamond T back, we'll be able to do our part. I love you. Small brain, but a big heart. Okay, let's load it up before anybody changes their mind. So Avery, today we're doing it your way.
About time.
You're sure this is all we need?
Well, that's a hell of a start, Mike.
Later that afternoon,
If it was me, I would have brought some wrenches or something.
Mike's asked Avery to help him with a tough job before his upcoming auction.
Out of curiosity,
Yeah.
why are we pulling the motor out of this piece?
Everybody and their dog that rebuilds an old Mopar wants a 440.
Pulling a valuable big block engine out of one of the two motorhomes parked in the churchyard.
Motor and tranny's probably $1,000. The only thing of value in those things is the driveline. I'm gonna yard the motor, but the rest is going for squish.
We're gonna take the motor out of this thing the fastest way we possibly can.
Okay? Says he can do it with a Sawzall. Have at her. I'm cringing. Hopefully nobody gets hurt. We're gonna peel this open like a can of salmon, buddy. You know, Abe, sometimes you're not as dumb as you look.
Now,
There.
get out of the way.
Avery is good at dismantling things. Dismantle, destroy. Oh, okay. Wind them up and watch them go. Oh, that looks safe. Is this the Schoaf method?
Yeah, just back up and hit it.
Well, we are making a mess. Are we any further ahead? I'm hoping this was the one. One was a good one. One was a one, but I forget which ones. Grab that rag. I just got to wipe this tag, and I'll tell you right now what this one is.
Why wouldn't we have done that before we started, you chowderhead?
Because I forgot. Hang on. We grabbed the wrong one. This one's a 413. That one's a 440. You should have looked first. Anyway, now at least we're practiced. We realized it was a 413, which is not really a good motor. It's not a bad motor, but nobody wants to build a 413.
What is that pre-planning you always say?
Proper plan includes piss poor performance.
Well, what happened there?
This was your plan. I just picked the wrong motor home.
It's a good thing there wasn't three of them. Now, are you for sure that that's the right motor nut thing?
Okay, but
Because it
first,
could be some other piece somewhere in the other, who knows, with you.
there is the potential for a mistake.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yesterday, Mike and Avery salvaged the wrong motor out of an RV earmarked for scrap.
Well, this is looking more promising.
Today, Mike is looking before leaping.
Should be right.
What is it, Mike?
Says J440. It's 1974 440 truck walk. This is the one we want. The Wave. I think I might have just what you need, little buddy.
Somebody else to do it?
Last time we let Avery try it with a Sawzall. Avery, say hello to my little friend. That work?
Yeah, get cut.
This time I've got a brand new quick cut with a 14-inch blade. We'll try that, see if it makes it any easier. How am I gonna get up there? Bring in the forklift. Okay, that's good. Oops, I broke it.
Jam the forklift right through there.
Doesn't seem like a very delicate way of doing it.
Well, you already broke window.
I know.
It's important that we get this motor out of this thing. Mike's trying to save everything else. I don't know, it's inherent in him or something, I think. Pull it out. Lift it. Keep going. This isn't an organ transplant. This is an autopsy. Keep going. Back up now, it should be loose.
What an amazing machine.
I should have never sold you that thing. Lift up. There we go. Now we can start taking it out.
I don't know what I'd do without you, Abe.
You'd live a nice, peaceful life. Give me a socket.
5/8?
Yeah. You know, it's about time Mike's finally doing things my way. Eh? It's going faster.
Oh, that's a weird angle.
Which way?
Other way. Okay.
Let's get a chain and hook it up to it.
What about the motor? You okay? Hey, you okay? What'd you just do?
It was close.
I think you bent the frame.
Yeah. You know what? I tripped, almost got impaled, I almost knocked my teeth out. A lot of things almost happened. The sun shines even on the dog's ass sometimes. It was my lucky day. Hey, back up.
The one core is good. It's got a lot of good parts. This is dual snorkel. It's high performance. The other one, I'm probably only going to salvage the transmission. So for the 2 days worth of effort and labor, it probably wasn't the smartest decision I've made. Hey, if you want to get into wrecking RVs, there's got to be no money in it, a lot of labor.
Yeah.
Hey, Avery, what's happening?
How are you?
I'm waddling.
Later at Wildman Restorations,
How's the leg doing?
It's all right.
Jacob's shown up, a little worse for wear.
You know what? A few weeks ago, Jacob was driving his motorcycle. A guy cut him off. He got in a bad accident. He damaged his knee, but you know what? It could have been a lot worse.
Well, there's a few more staples left
You want me to pull them staples out? It'll save you a trip to the hospital. Or sit down. Here, let me take a look at that. You know what? Injuries? Yeah, you usually can take care of most of them yourself. I gotta get my doctoring table sanitized here.
You are slightly too excited for this, and I didn't even say you could do it yet.
Well, we'll pull them out.
I'm considering letting Avery do this because it's the last few staples, and they're kind of grown in there, and Avery might just have what it takes.
What are you gonna do with that?
I'm beginning to have second thoughts.
I gotta find my glasses. I don't see that good.
All right, now you can see what we're working with here. I already pulled 13 of these things out with this thing.
Let's see.
You'll like this tool.
How the that work?
That's not the sanitary hand. Put that down here. Keep digging. Yeah, there you go. Ow, Avery, do it faster. You torture. Hey,
What?
you got a burrito in your hand.
Hey, I'm a backyard doctor.
We got her out. Okay, let's go. What do you want to do? It's after this Avery operation here. I've come to realize I would much rather work on a project with Avery than be the project he's working on.
Me and Chafin peeled these here brake drums off.
Yes.
And found that they were emptier than last year's bird's nest. The other half track out there, I do believe has a full set of brakes in it.
All right, let's get some tools.
I need some brake shoes. It's a good thing I got 3 half tracks. I need to go back and cannibalize one of them.
Wow. Yeah, there's a few bushes around here, Abe. You got a brake trail for me, because I'm gonna have to move a fender or two.
That fender's actually in good shape. I possibly have an auction coming up. I need to be careful with the stuff in my yard. Okay, grab the old big girl there.
That thing is tough.
Here.
It's coming off. Okay.
You got this side done?
Yep.
The other side's gonna be a bit of a problem.
Don't have much working area in here.
This truck, we don't want to be hitting it with the hammer when releasing that axle. This white truck is absolutely mint. The thing has lived in this yard for just about 8 years, and I don't want to be putting any dents in it.
It's open. Put it in neutral and push.
We're gonna just muscle this thing out of the way. That's good.
Woo!
Okay, let's pull this axle out. That axle come out nice. See if it'll turn.
Uh-oh.
I don't think it's gonna move.
It's an interesting idea.
The brake shoes are seized to the inside of this drum.
Okay, you want me to whack these nuts
Yeah,
off?
pull the nuts out.
Okay.
It may all have to come out at one piece. Brake drum, sprocket, and brake shoes.
Okay. Hammer can't even swing in there.
We got a real problem happening. The bolts are just corroded in there. They're not moving. I need to pound the bolts out in order to release the brake drum. It's all wedged in there now. If it ever comes out, I'll be impressed. Oh. Oh, it's moving. It's moving. Look at the light coming out. I keep getting it. Okay, hang on. You get a pry bar and wiggle her out with me.
Oh, here's some. I got some here. Ah, there it comes. 1, 2, 3.
Watch your toes. Okay, give a pull on this thing.
1, 2, 3. Oh!
I tell you what, absolutely blown away
What?
that we actually got this off. Some unobtainium brake parts. I'm hacked. I got the pieces I need to continue this build.
You are the original Zip Cut Kid.
Okay, let's get this thing in.
At Pacific Muscle Cars in Kelowna, BC,
We're good? Yeah, we're clear.
Patrick's crew is gearing up to help with Rust Bros' latest project.
The frame, there's definitely some work to do there for sure. When the Diamond T leaves the shop, it will be at PMC standards. So we do have a lot of work because right now it's a little lacking. The thing's been shortened, right?
Yeah.
So let's get in underneath and have a look. This is where they
sectioned
sectioned it. Looks like it was pieced together. We had it inspected, they were happy with it, so we'll just clean it up, blend it in, strengthen it up a bit more.
We had an inspector come out, take a look at the frame. It's actually really strong. We're gonna beef it up, but it meets our needs for sure.
Let the air out of the bags. I know. The other issue is, she's sitting here.
Yeah. So an airbag suspension has 4 airbags. They sit on each point of the vehicle, they inflate up like a balloon and allows for a nice smooth ride. The problem with the Diamond T suspension is the airbags right now interfere with the axle. So if they drop down, it blows out an airbag. That's a huge safety concern.
So if we can get 3 inches
Okay.
of drop.
Yeah.
Will cool. Be golden. All right. We've got to do some engineering to get it where it needs to go so that it's safe and looks amazing.
Does he really want it this low?
He wants it in the weeds. Mike's got to do some work on this thing yet, so I'm a little bit worried that we leave him enough time and money to get done what he needs to get done.
Let's plan the work and work the plan, Dave.
Meanwhile, in the churchyard next to Rust Bros,
I don't think you're gonna get your deck truck backed in there.
nope, Mike's asked Dave from Twisted Auto to help him tow his RVs to the scrapyard.
Are the wheels turning?
Yes.
In 6 weeks, I have to give the church their yard back. Those 2 motorhomes take up the space of 4 or 5 vehicles. Gotta get them gone. So why don't we get my truck in a long chain? Should be able to go out far enough to drag it out.
All right, let's do that.
We don't have much room.
We don't have much brains either to keep doing what we do.
The next issue is getting them off the property. Got a license to drive that thing, Dave?
No.
Okay.
Hey, Mikey, gentle. Easy.
Start cranking.
I'm turning.
These are big pieces of equipment. They're probably 6,000 to 7,000 pounds total weight.
It's already coming apart.
So it is a little sketchy. Where do you want it?
Right there.
It's good. I mean, they're barely gonna fit on a 24-foot tow truck. Is it square or does it gotta go over?
Turn it this way, Mike. Got it right there.
Well, we got a foot on this side.
Got a foot on this side. She's heavy. Uh-oh. I'm dragging the hitch. Just broke my deck.
No!
Yeah.
The problem with hauling these motorhomes is they've got so much overhang, the bumper drags. We cracked his deck.
So much for profit.
The money he's making off the scrap is not gonna pay for fixing his deck. I know somebody might pay for the welding bill. He's not happy, but I sure hope he comes back for the next one. I think that's about the sketchiest load I've ever seen on Dave's truck. Good thing Dave's got more balls than brains, eh, Link?
With the motorhome loaded up, they'll take it to Dave's scrapyard at the old Field of Dreams.
That's good! Just drive ahead and it'll roll off. I'll throw this behind the tires, we'll be good. Avery, what are you doing? And what's up? Up! Hang on!
Mike!
Stop! 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 Stop!
Mike!
Oh, Jesus!
Mike!
Your Frank's building! Avery called. It's his fault.
Avery called. Why are you making me laugh? This is not funny. It's not, Mike.
The thing took off and launched into the neighbor's yard. Luckily, we missed his chicken coop. Like, it was close by a foot. Dave, I don't own this place. That's an issue. I'm out of here before Frank sees that.
Oh, funny guy.
Is it Avery?
It is, yes.
Do you know when your last full eye exam was?
Yeah, Mike, give me one.
Meanwhile, at a clinic in Salmon Arms,
Sit down and don't embarrass me.
Mike has brought Avery to get his eyes checked by professionals.
You know what? I've never been to an optometrist. This is going to be fairly interesting.
Okay, you're gonna see a little red light in there. And hold your blank, eyes nice and wide.
Oh, you supposed to blink?
No. She said, hold your blink.
You know what? They got some interesting machines here. Some of them I like.
Okay.
What is that thing?
She's gonna stab you right in the eye.
Why?
Both of them.
Some of them I really don't like a whole bunch. I don't like that thing very much.
What's up next?
We're gonna take a picture of the back of your eye.
Well, that would be interesting.
Just turn your head to one side, like you're peeking through a hole in a fence.
He's done that lot. Look, Abe. That's the back of your eye. When you look deep into Avery's eyes, you see canned ham, maybe pea soup.
We'll go get you set up with Dr. Thompson now.
Perfect.
Okay, we're gonna bring this up to your eyes here. Let me know which lens makes those letters the clearest, okay? We have lens number 1 here, or lens number 2.
I can't see nothing. B possibly, whatever the last one.
You need some glasses, Avery, to help you see up close. Your distance vision's really good, though.
Peering through the fences, all the cracks, all that stuff you do.
That's fine. So,
Well, that's not what she said.
Now you gotta go pick glasses, Avery.
We'll try some frames on. Hell, I might even look debonair.
Show us your toughest.
Yeah. Can you drive over any of them?
What else you got?
a little bit bigger.
Those kind of fit your face.
I can almost see Baltimore from here. No.
The funniest thing is how vain he is.
These ones here look like I'm going to play racquetball.
He's tried on 20 or 30 different pairs. Avery, what kind of makes you look intelligent? Just pick one that's gonna give you good vision, Ave. Let's see, Ave. Those are you.
When I put them up there, they stay on my fat head. See that?
Okay.
We'll take a pair of these. You know what? I found the perfect frames. We'll get some clear glasses in them, and hopefully I don't lose them right away.
You will see like a new man.
You barely see the bill. Hey, guys. I hear my wheels are done.
The next morning in Langley, BC, Avery is picking up the restored wheels for his half track.
We stripped the rubber off, we took the cores, we sandblasted the whole thing, bring it back to bare metal. Brand new rubber, brand new paint.
Called bogies, these wheels sit inside the track to maintain its shape and tension. Avery's vintage set has been relined by the team at Redwood Plastics.
Thanks, guys.
No problem.
Okay,
Later that day,
we're gonna try to assemble the bogies and put the tracks on this thing.
Avery and Jacob are putting together the bogie wheel clusters at Wildman.
I'm surprised them nuts go back on there.
The wheels need to be paired, then mounted to a shaft that will hold them inside the track.
There we go. These bogies is what this track runs on, and if they're not right, you can have a track derailment. It will bite you in the ass if you don't pay attention.
See how that first thread is collapsed?
Hang on a minute. Where's my glasses at?
Wow, what are those? What the hell are those?
You know what? There's gonna be trial by fire. We're gonna see how these glasses work today.
We're making new threads. One of them gotta work, eh?
A whole new world has just opened up.
I see that.
Quite amazed. I don't think I could ever got this thread fixed without these glasses. The fine work's done. We need to get the bogies on this machine so we can get the tracks on this thing. Perfect. Okay, that's good.
Oh. Now get the ass end over some more. That's what I'm talking about. This is a serious operation here.
A little more.
job, eh? The struggle's real, huh?
It's a real struggle.
It's on!
What an awesome thing.
Isn't it?
I've been working on odds and ends and pieces and parts. I can't believe actually how good it looks. You know what? It's nice to finally see it coming together. I tell you what, we need to see if this motor's gonna fit on this transmission. We'll try fitting it together and see what it does. This stuff is old school technology. It's definitely interesting.
Okay.
There's 3 pieces that have to line up on this thing in order for it to go together. They gotta be close, dead close. And if you force it, you will break it.
Okay. Oh my days!
Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Went into the pilot bearing just now. Okay, we'll tighten it up a little bit.
Okay, do you think this thing's gonna run?
Woo!
Hey, look at that!
Look at that!
That's awesome!
Whoa, we're in a big cog! You know what, these half tracks, always wanted to do one. I've always been in love with these vehicles.
Marco parts.
Oh, perfect! My Hydro Booster. I've been around 1 or 2 of them when I was younger, and it's something that I said, hey, one day if I have the opportunity, I would like to take and mess around with one of these, and now I have my chance.
So how did the rebuild go? It looks way different than it did when I dropped it off.
I tell you what, it's one of the bigger projects I ever done. There's been definitely some hurdles, man.
Avery and heavy equipment hauler Carl are transporting the half track to a local rock quarry,
Dream big or go home, right?
where Mike, Connor, and Jacob are waiting to see the result of Avery's months of work.
I see headlights in the mist.
The crown jewel.
It's quite the rig, man.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
It looks like a really nice tarp.
Just wait patiently. We'll unveil her for you.
Okay, and hardly wait.
Come over here, Carl.
Oh, hey! It has come a long way since I last saw it. We're ready.
The moment of truth.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing.
Watch out. Oh,
Yes, Avery. Look at this thing.
no hesitation. Boom, it's running. Drives off the low bed. I'm impressed so far. Oh, look at that. Wow. I saw it when he had it disassembled. All I saw was a headache, but this thing looks like it came right out of World War II.
It's got power windows in it.
Ooh.
Wow.
Manpower windows.
Manpower window.
Wow. You couldn't buy a cushion?
These vehicles are so cramped in the inside, if there's any padding, you won't fit in them.
Well, that's because it's you, bud.
This half track screams Avery. He loves weird machines. It's so unique. It is 100% him.
It's all 1/4-inch plate,
Yeah. It will stop a 303.
which was what the military
That's
was
what they
shooting.
had back then.
Where did you find all these screws?
Iowa.
Iowa.
At $4 a piece.
Poured up.
I put probably 700 bolts into this thing. That's without the nuts.
I think you got screwed.
These parts are hard to find. There's pieces from all over the world on this thing. I look at it, makes me feel good.
Jesus.
This motor, this thing is a flathead, but it runs absolutely awesome. A blistering 148 horsepower, 4-speed transmission. It's got a non-synchro gearbox in it.
Look at these tracks. They're like brand new.
These tracks have stainless steel core in them. The old ones were steel and they would rust and break, so they put stainless in them.
They fought wars with these things, drove millions of miles through the worst conditions. I'm sure this thing would go almost anywhere. I want to look at the inside. I haven't looked at the inside yet.
What's behind this door? The troop carrier here.
The whole inside of this is 100% purpose-built. There is nothing in here for comfort.
I really like the suspension.
Everything has a purpose, and they made it work.
So, Avery, why this? What was the point?
At the end of the day, it is a piece of history. If it wouldn't have been restored, it would have been gone forever.
Yeah.
And now it'll go to either a museum, somebody's private collection, and it will be treasured.
Well, let's leave the scene. It's time.
Okay, let's go for a rip.
Light it up. I'm braced for impact. There's no give, there's no padding. I think this will be a stand-up ride.
We're going to war, boys! We're gonna test her out a little bit and see what it'll do.
Oh, feel that suspension. Oh, God. It's actually amazing what Avery can accomplish. I mean, I think he did an amazing job, and I'm very impressed.
Okay, boys.
Hey, the brakes work?
I don't.
The morning sun cast long, hesitant shadows over the gravel-strewn lot of Rust Valley. the air thick with the smell of gasoline, rust, and the faint tang of engine oil that had soaked into every crevice of the workshop. Mick, with his weathered hands and perpetually grease-smeared overalls, squinted against the rising light, the brim of his hat casting a shadow over the sharp lines of his face that had been etched by years of relentless tinkering, stubborn determination, and nights spent listening to engines whine and groan long after the sun had gone down. Today felt different, though he couldn't place exactly why. There was a tension in the lot, subtle but insistent, like a whisper of danger under the usual symphony of revving motors, clanging tools, and distant laughter from the neighboring properties. As he walked past the row of classic cars waiting for their revival, from a battered '57 Chevy with peeling turquoise paint to a 1969 Camaro with a hood that hadn't closed properly in decades, Mick's eyes caught on a figure he didn't recognize. Leaning against the fence, arms folded, watching the bustle with a peculiar intensity. The stranger's clothes were too clean for Rust Valley, a tailored jacket that suggested city origins rather than the dirt-stained reality of rural restorers, and the subtle way he shifted his weight, impatient and precise, made Mick instinctively tighten his grip on the wrench he was holding. Not that he intended to threaten anyone, but there was a sense of unease. An instinct born from years of working around people who either didn't respect the rules of the workshop or underestimated the unpredictability of rusty machinery. "Morning," Mick said, trying to sound casual, though his voice carried the rough timbre of suspicion. The man nodded, a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes, and in that moment Mick noticed something that made him stop mid-step. There was a gleam at the man's waist, partially concealed by the jacket, a faint metallic edge that caught the light like a whisper of intent. Mick's brain, honed over decades of assessing danger and judging character by the smallest of gestures, screamed at him to pay attention. Yet, for all the alarms ringing in his mind, he forced himself to smile, because in Rust Valley, appearances often deceived, and judging too quickly could lead to mistakes as catastrophic as ignoring the need for a torque wrench on a vintage engine. "You looking for something in particular?" Mick asked, keeping his tone neutral, even casual, even as the hairs on the back of his neck prickled. The man's smile widened, a fraction, almost imperceptibly, and he tilted his head, eyes scanning the lot as if cataloging each vehicle, each tool, each person's stance. "I hear you're the best at bringing things back to life," the man said, voice smooth, precise, with a hint of mock admiration. "I'm in need of someone who sees the hidden potential in things most people consider dead." Mick's eyes narrowed slightly. He had heard this before, in various forms, clients who had visions bigger than the budget, who wanted miracles wrought from scrap metal and broken dreams. "We do our best," Mick replied, carefully non-committal, not giving away anything about the workshop's current state or what projects were ongoing. The stranger's gaze lingered on the '69 Camaro, the one with the dented fender and the missing carburetor. "That one," he said, pointing with a gloved finger, "has potential, but also issues that might not be obvious at first glance." Mick followed the finger, and a subtle, creeping unease settled in his stomach. Something about the phrasing, the certainty, suggested that this man wasn't just casually observing. He knew what he was looking for, perhaps more than anyone should. "You ever restore something and realize too late that you missed something critical?" The stranger continued, voice lowering, almost conspiratorial. Mick's hands tightened slightly on the wrench, though he kept his stance relaxed. "That happens," he said carefully, "if you're not thorough. But we're thorough." The man's eyes flicked to the side, as if noticing something beyond Mick's line of sight, and then back. "Good. I like thorough," he said. "And I pay well for thorough." Mick nodded slowly, weighing the words. Rust Valley was full of eccentric clients, but something about this man made the familiar rhythm of the workshop, clanging, revving, laughter, feel offbeat, like a song played in the wrong key. Without realizing it, Mick found himself scanning the lot again, more carefully this time, noting which vehicles were where, which tools were within reach, and whether anyone else had noticed the stranger. A quick glance confirmed his instincts. Everyone else was absorbed in their own tasks, unaware, unconcerned. Mick's mind raced. He knew that in the world of car restoration, blind spots weren't just physical, they were vulnerabilities. People could slip in, assessments could be wrong, and assumptions about safety could be fatal. The man took a step closer, and Mick could now see the faint outline of something in his hand, partially hidden by the shadow of the jacket, the hint of cold steel against warm morning light. Mick's pulse quickened. "Look," he said carefully, "if you're here for business, we can talk terms. But if you're here to," he trailed off, not wanting to accuse without certainty, "you'll find we take that very seriously." The stranger's smile was a small, deliberate thing, a subtle acknowledgement of the tension, almost like a challenge. "Relax, Mick," he said, though Mick had not revealed his name aloud. How did he know it? "I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here because I need someone who can see what others overlook." He paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, "Blind spots. Everyone has them. Even you." Mick's jaw tightened. He had a blind spot once, a project that had gone horribly wrong, a restoration that failed despite his best efforts. The memory was sharp, bitter, a lesson in humility he hadn't fully shared with anyone, and here was someone invoking it, knowing, taunting perhaps, the very weakness Mick thought he had buried. Mick glanced toward the Camaro again, noticing subtle details he had not before, the wear on the tires, the uneven rust pattern along the chassis, the almost imperceptible dent near the firewall that would compromise alignment if overlooked. It was as if the stranger's presence had forced him to see beyond the obvious, beyond the surface, into the heart of the machine. "You want me to restore it," Mick said cautiously. "I can do that. But why me? Why not someone local, someone you know?" The man's eyes gleamed, a mixture of calculation and amusement. "Because you have a reputation, Mick. Not just for restoration, but for insight. You see the hidden things, the flaws everyone else misses. That's what I need." Mick's mind raced again, thinking of the potential risk. Someone who knew about his blind spots might not just be challenging his skills, they might be testing him, probing for weakness or worse. He looked around, noting the other restorers, their backs turned, their focus elsewhere, blissfully unaware. He felt the weight of responsibility, the tension of knowing that this encounter could shape the fate of not only the car in question, but perhaps the very integrity of the workshop itself. "All right," Mick said finally, carefully measuring each word, "I'll take a look. But we do it by the rules here. No shortcuts, no surprises, and I call it if something's off." The man's smile widened fractionally, an almost imperceptible nod. "Good. Rules are important. And surprises, well, sometimes they're unavoidable. But that's where the magic happens." Mick forced a laugh, though it was hollow, because he already sensed the unusual, almost predatory energy the man brought into the lot, and he knew instinctively that today would be unlike any other day in Rust Valley. As the stranger walked toward the Camaro, Mick followed, keeping a careful distance, eyes scanning, noting every twitch, every glance, every micro-expression. He recognized immediately that this was no ordinary restoration project. Something about the way the man examined the car, tracing the lines with a practiced finger, the almost imperceptible nods and shakes of the head, indicated that he knew more than he should, or at least more than Mick had expected anyone outside the workshop to know. "You see that dent?" the man asked, pointing at the firewall. Mick nodded. "It'll throw off alignment if we're not careful." "Yes," the man said softly, almost reverently. "And most people would miss it. That's why I came to you." Mick took a step back, studying the Camaro with fresh eyes. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, he felt a chill of uncertainty, a sense that the familiar world of Rust Valley, with its predictable chaos and rough camaraderie, had suddenly become a landscape of hidden threats and uncharted possibilities. And in that moment, Mick understood that this project, this blind spot, was not just about a car. It was about perception, about trust, about the unspoken gaps in understanding that could turn even the most ordinary day into something dangerous, something transformative, or both. He squared his shoulders, gripping his wrench tightly, and prepared himself for the challenge, knowing that whatever lay ahead, he would see it through with the relentless, uncompromising dedication that had defined Rust Valley restorers for years. But deep down, A whisper of doubt lingered, a reminder that even the best mechanics had blind spots, and that sometimes, seeing too late could mean more than just a failed restoration. It could mean losing control entirely. And as the stranger lingered over the Camaro, tracing invisible lines and muttering to himself, Mick realized that today, Rust Valley itself would test him in ways he had never imagined, and the first lesson had already begun. Nothing was as simple as it seemed, and every blind spot carried a story, a danger, and a revelation waiting to be uncovered. The stranger's presence lingered like an uninvited shadow as Mick circled the Camaro, his mind racing with calculations, measurements, and scenarios that no blueprint could fully anticipate. He ran his fingers along the rusted edges, tracing the corrosion patterns, mentally mapping out which parts would need reinforcement, which panels could be salvaged, and which would have to be replaced entirely. Rust Valley had taught him that patience was as important as skill, that the story a car told through scratches, dents, and faded paint could guide a restoration far more accurately than any spec sheet. And yet this Camaro seemed to have secrets Mick had not anticipated. He had seen blind spots in machinery before, structural weaknesses that were not immediately visible, but the feeling he had today was different. The stranger's presence seemed to highlight not just the car's flaws, but the vulnerabilities in his own perception. Mick glanced up as the man crouched near the front wheel, his hands hovering over the brake calipers without touching them, eyes narrowing with a meticulous intensity that made Mick step back. "You're not just looking at it, you're reading it," Mick said cautiously. The man smiled faintly, the sort of smile that suggested he understood the layers of meaning hidden in rust, paint, and metal. "Exactly," he said. "A restoration is not just fixing what is broken. It's understanding what has been ignored, what has been overlooked, what has been deliberately or accidentally hidden." Mick felt a shiver run down his spine. There was a philosophical weight to the man's words, a subtle implication that this project was about more than mechanics. It was about perception, about the ability to see beneath surfaces, beneath facades, beneath assumptions. He had encountered difficult clients before, those who demanded perfection, or who had unrealistic expectations, but none had ever come with such a quiet intensity that suggested they were testing him as much as the car. "All right," Mick said finally, setting down the wrench and wiping his hands on a rag. "We'll start with a full assessment. I need to know exactly what's here, what's structurally sound, and what's going to give us trouble." The stranger nodded approvingly. "Good. I'm here to observe. I'll be honest, this car has value beyond its metal and paint. You might find that what's invisible to most is what matters most." Mick swallowed hard. He had a vague sense of unease, a suspicion that the stranger knew something about the Camaro's history that even Mick didn't. Yet he was a professional. Experience had taught him to separate instinct from fear and fear from action. He began a meticulous inspection, removing bolts, testing the integrity of the suspension, checking for hidden cracks in the frame. The stranger followed silently, occasionally kneeling or leaning in closer, pointing out subtleties that Mick would have missed if he had been working alone. "See this weld?" the man asked softly, tapping a thin line near the rear axle. Mick examined it carefully. The weld was uneven, not professionally done, and had been hidden beneath layers of paint and undercoating. "Someone tried to hide this," the man said. "Do you know why?" Mick shook his head. Could be anything, a previous repair, a failed modification, or someone trying to cover up damage. The man's gaze lingered on Mick, sharp, assessing. Or it could be a blind spot. Not in the metal, but in perception. People miss things all the time, and the consequences can be significant. Mick frowned, feeling the weight of the implication. He had spent decades building a reputation on noticing what others overlooked, yet this stranger seemed to understand the vulnerabilities in his own vision, his own assumptions, and that unsettled him. They moved together through the Camaro, tools clinking softly against metal, the morning stretching into afternoon as they dismantled, inspected, and cataloged every component. Mick noticed how precise the stranger was, handling parts with care, offering insights that were both technical and philosophical, bridging the gap between mechanics and observation. He realized that the stranger was challenging not only the car but Mick himself, forcing him to confront the limitations in his approach, the hidden errors he had learned to ignore, and the blind spots that had accumulated over years of habitual practice. As they worked, Mick reflected on the nature of restoration. It wasn't just about fixing what was broken. It was about honoring the past, understanding the context, respecting the integrity of materials, and anticipating how every decision would ripple forward. The stranger seemed to grasp this intuitively, as if he had a deeper understanding of how oversight could escalate into disaster, how negligence, even unintentional, could turn a masterpiece into a hazard. By mid-afternoon, the Camaro was partially disassembled, the garage filled with the scent of oil, rust, and freshly cut metal. Mick felt a creeping tension in his shoulders, a mixture of exhaustion, anticipation, and unease. He realized that this project, unlike any other, was testing him not only physically but mentally, pushing him to question assumptions and examine areas he had long ignored. The stranger stood quietly, observing, occasionally nodding or murmuring, and Mick realized that the man's silence was a tool, a method to provoke thought, to challenge judgment, to expose weaknesses. It was almost uncomfortable, this constant presence, a mirror held up to Mick's own expertise, reflecting blind spots he had never consciously acknowledged. Then came the subtle revelation, the moment when the invisible became tangible. Mick was inspecting the undercarriage when he noticed a faint indentation, almost hidden beneath the accumulation of dirt and rust. It was not something that would be immediately visible to most, and yet something in the stranger's demeanor nudged him to take a closer look. He ran his hands along the metal, tracing the contours, and felt a sharp inconsistency, a warp in the frame that suggested previous trauma, perhaps an accident that had been smoothed over, hidden in plain sight. Mick's stomach tightened. This was a blind spot not just in the car structure, but in perception, in the assumptions that people carried about condition and safety. "Here," Mick said, voice low, pointing. The stranger leaned in, eyes narrowing. "I see it," he said quietly. "Most would have missed this entirely. Yet it's critical. It changes everything." Mick felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. Pride that he had noticed it, apprehension at what it meant for the restoration. The project was no longer straightforward. It was now a delicate balance of repair, preservation, and innovation. They continued their work, and as evening approached, Mick felt the weight of accumulated hours, sweat, and concentrated thought pressing on him. He realized that this wasn't just about a car or a stranger. It was about understanding hidden patterns, anticipating consequences, and embracing the uncertainty that came with pushing beyond the obvious. The stranger finally spoke after hours of silence. "Do you understand now?" he asked, voice calm but intense. "This is more than metal. This is about seeing what others cannot, about correcting mistakes before they become disasters, about acknowledging blind spots in everything you do." Mick nodded slowly. He understood. This encounter, this project, was not simply a restoration. It was a lesson, a challenge, a confrontation with his own limitations and potential. He knew that the Camaro would be more than a test of skill. It would be a journey into perception, patience, and understanding. As the day ended, Mick locked up the garage, tools scattered, notes made, parts carefully labeled, the stranger still watching. The air was cool now, tinged with the earthy smell of gravel and oil, the sounds of distant machinery fading into quiet. Mick felt a sense of anticipation, a mixture of excitement and dread, knowing that tomorrow would bring deeper insights, more challenges, and revelations hidden beneath layers of rust and assumption. He realized that in Rust Valley, every car, every project, every blind spot had a story, a lesson, and sometimes a hidden danger. And for the first time in a long time, Mick felt that he was not just restoring a car, but confronting unseen forces, unseen flaws, unseen truths. Forces that could either elevate his work to extraordinary heights or expose vulnerabilities he had long ignored. As he turned to leave, the stranger gave a slight nod, almost imperceptible, but charged with meaning. Mick understood that this was not the end of the lesson, but merely the beginning, and that the Camaro, the blind spot, and the stranger's quiet presence would shape not only the project, but perhaps the very essence of Rust Valley Restorers itself. Walking home through the dusky streets, Mick replayed the day's events. Every glance, every observation, every subtle indication that perception could betray or guide, and he realized that tomorrow, the workshop would demand more than skill. It would demand awareness, intuition, and the courage to confront what had been ignored, unseen, or underestimated. And deep within him, Mick felt the stirring of a resolve that went beyond restoration. It was about mastery, vigilance, and understanding that in every blind spot there was a choice, to ignore or to see. Morning came again with a crisp chill, the gravel lot of Rust Valley glinting under the pale sun, the air carrying a faint metallic tang that hinted at engines, oil, and the promise of another day of transformation. Mick arrived early, as usual, his boots crunching over loose stones, hands already itching to touch the Camaro, to continue the meticulous process begun yesterday. But today felt different. The stranger had not arrived yet, and Mick sensed that the absence, even for a few minutes, brought a new tension, as though the calm before the storm was a deliberate test of patience and observation. He approached the Camaro, its frame partially disassembled, wires dangling like nervous tendrils, metal surfaces revealing both beauty and neglect, and he felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him anew. Every dent, every warped panel, every hidden crack carried a story, and he knew the stranger's words echoed in his mind. Blind spots could not only undermine a restoration, they could expose vulnerabilities within oneself. Mick took out his notebook, jotting measurements, noting the irregularities in the chassis, sketching ideas for reinforcement, and carefully listing parts that would need custom fabrication. His fingers traced the warped metal once more, remembering the subtle clues that had revealed the hidden indentation yesterday. It was a small imperfection, easily overlooked, yet crucial to the integrity of the entire vehicle. As he worked, his thoughts were interrupted by the sudden sound of an engine revving, followed by the crunch of tires over gravel. He looked up to see the stranger arriving, not in a nondescript vehicle, but in a sleek, black car that contrasted sharply with the rustic, cluttered world of Rust Valley. The juxtaposition was jarring, almost theatrical, and Mick felt the familiar tightening in his chest, a mixture of curiosity, apprehension, and instinctual caution. The man stepped out, surveying the lot with his usual meticulous attention, eyes flicking from one vehicle to another, pausing only briefly on the Camaro. "Good morning," he said smoothly, voice carrying authority yet calmness, as if the environment itself were an extension of his will. Mick nodded, returning the greeting, and immediately noticed the faint glint of something metallic at his waist once again, partially concealed beneath his jacket. He forced himself not to dwell on it, knowing that overthinking could lead to distraction, and in Rust Valley, distraction could be costly. "We have much to do," the stranger said, gesturing toward the Camaro. "Shall we continue?" Mick moved forward, picking up a torque wrench, and together they began the delicate task of disassembling the suspension. The stranger worked with precision, his hands steady, eyes sharp, noting each irregularity, each anomaly, and occasionally pointing out subtle misalignments that Mick would have eventually noticed, but only after hours of labor. It was almost disorienting, this blend of observation and instruction, as if the man were not merely assisting but subtly guiding Mick's perception, forcing him to examine the familiar with unfamiliar scrutiny. As they progressed, Mick began to notice patterns, the sort that were not written in manuals or covered in training, microfractures in the frame that suggested prior modifications, faint abrasions indicating that the car had been handled roughly in its past, and signs that certain areas had been intentionally disguised, masked under layers of paint and undercoating. "This part," the stranger said, pointing to a section of the frame, "is more than damaged, it's a clue. It tells a story of neglect, of hidden stress, and of decisions made long before you ever touched this vehicle." Mick felt a shiver of recognition. Restoration was not merely technical, it was interpretive, almost forensic. Every mark, Every irregularity spoke of choices, accidents, and intentions, and understanding these stories was as critical as welding, sanding, or painting. They moved through the Camaro. Methodically, each action deliberate, each observation noted. Mick could feel his own perception sharpening, the blind spots he had previously overlooked becoming increasingly obvious. Yet, despite this clarity, there was an undercurrent of tension. Something in the stranger's presence suggested a deeper agenda, a challenge that extended beyond the mechanical. Mid-morning, Mick paused, wiping sweat from his brow, and glanced toward the stranger, who was now crouched near the rear axle, fingers tracing a faint line of rust. "Why this attention to detail?" Mick asked. "Most people wouldn't care about such subtle flaws." The man looked up, his eyes meeting Mick's with an intensity that made him momentarily uneasy. "Because blind spots matter," he said simply. "In cars, in work, in life. Ignoring them doesn't just compromise the project, it compromises the person." Mick nodded, understanding on a rational level, but feeling the weight of the statement pressing against his subconscious. The workshop, the Camaro, the stranger, it was all a mirror, reflecting not just flaws in metal, but flaws in perception, in judgment, and in awareness. Hours passed, the sunlight shifting across the lot, shadows lengthening, as they continued the meticulous inspection. Mick found himself questioning previous assumptions, re-examining areas he had already deemed sound, and discovering subtle misalignments that had escaped notice. The stranger's presence was both a guide and a provocation, pushing him to see beyond the surface, to challenge habitual judgments, and to confront the inevitability of blind spots. Around midday, the tension shifted as a new sound echoed across the lot, the faint squeal of tires, the snap of a chain, a disturbance among the distant vehicles. Mick instinctively looked up, scanning the surroundings, and noticed a young apprentice, a newcomer to Rust Valley, approaching with a hesitant gait. "Mick, I think there's something you need to see," the apprentice said, voice tinged with uncertainty. Mick's brow furrowed. "Show me." The apprentice led him toward a vintage truck parked at the edge of the lot, one that had been partially restored weeks ago. Mick's eyes immediately caught the subtle issue. The rear axle was misaligned, a problem that had been missed in prior inspections. The realization hit him hard. Even with meticulous attention, blind spots persisted. The stranger, observing silently from the Camaro, smiled faintly, a hint of acknowledgement, and Mick felt a mixture of relief and frustration. It was a lesson reinforced. No matter how skilled or attentive, oversight could happen, and vigilance was an ongoing requirement. Returning to the Camaro, Mick felt a renewed sense of urgency. Every bolt, every weld, every panel was now approached with heightened scrutiny. The stranger guided him through unconventional methods of inspection, suggesting angles, tests, and subtle manipulations that revealed hidden weaknesses. Mick found himself marveling at the depth of insight the man possessed, yet the unease persisted. He realized that this project was no ordinary restoration. It was an exercise in awareness, patience, and psychological endurance. By late afternoon, they had uncovered structural weaknesses that would require significant reinforcement, adjustments that could affect the entire alignment, and areas where corrosion had spread beyond what was immediately visible. Mick cataloged each issue meticulously, mentally planning the sequence of repairs, modifications, and custom fabrications necessary to restore the Camaro without compromising integrity. The stranger observed, occasionally nodding, occasionally offering cryptic insights. "You see, Mick," he said, "restoration is not simply about replacing parts. It's about understanding the interplay of history, stress, and intention. Blind spots are everywhere, and the skilled restorer must anticipate them." Mick felt a deep resonance with the words, but also a gnawing tension. The stranger seemed to understand. More than just mechanics, he understood the vulnerabilities of perception itself, the areas where assumption could betray skill, and the subtle cracks in judgment that even the most experienced hands could overlook. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the lot, Mick finally stepped back, surveying the partially disassembled Camaro, the scattered tools, and the stranger's quiet, deliberate presence. There was exhaustion, yes, but also a profound awareness, a recognition that today had been more than work. It had been a confrontation with blind spots, both in metal and in mind. The stranger's gaze met his, steady, almost evaluative, and Mick understood the unspoken message. The day had been a test. The insights gained were only the beginning, and tomorrow would demand even greater awareness, precision, and courage. Locking up the workshop for the night, Mick walked home through the dusky streets, reflecting on the day's revelations. Every dent, every warp, every subtle flaw now carried additional weight, the knowledge that oversight was never truly gone, only delayed. He felt the stirrings of anticipation, the readiness to confront challenges that were as much psychological as they were mechanical. The Camaro, the stranger, and the blind spots they had exposed would shape not just the restoration, but the very ethos of Rust Valley itself. And as stars began to dot the sky above, Mick realized that mastery was not merely about skill, but about seeing, perceiving, and acknowledging the unseen, even when it made one uncomfortable, uncertain, or challenged. Tonight, he would sleep lightly, alert to the lessons learned, ready to return to the workshop with renewed focus, and aware that every blind spot carried a story, a danger, and a potential for revelation that could not be ignored. The morning air was sharper than usual, biting at exposed skin and carrying the scent of damp earth and lingering oil from the workshop. Mick arrived with the first rays of sunlight, boots scuffing against the gravel, already feeling the hum of anticipation in his veins. The Camaro awaited, its partially disassembled frame exposed like a puzzle that demanded not only technical skill but perception, patience, and insight into every hidden flaw. Mick paused for a moment, eyes scanning the lot, mentally mapping the day's work, recalling the lessons of the previous 2 days, lessons about hidden weakness, overlooked damage, and the ever-present risk of blind spots, not only in the cars but in his own judgment. The stranger arrived shortly after, his silhouette cutting a sharp line against the pale morning sky, eyes scanning the lot as if measuring, evaluating, categorizing every detail. He moved with precision, almost deliberately slow, taking in the scattered tools, the half-disassembled Camaro, and the surrounding vehicles. Mick felt the familiar tension tighten in his chest, a mixture of curiosity, apprehension, and the instinctive alertness that came with dealing with someone who saw more than he revealed. "Morning," Mick said, keeping his tone neutral but firm. The stranger nodded, his gaze flicking to the Camaro. "Let's continue," he said, his voice calm, deliberate, carrying authority without demanding it. Mick approached the car, wrenches and tools already in hand, and together they resumed their meticulous work. The day's focus would be on the frame and suspension, the critical components that demanded absolute precision. The first step was removing remnants of previous repairs, some crude, some competent, but all requiring careful attention. Mick's hands moved methodically, testing each bolt, checking each weld, and noting the irregularities that could compromise the restoration. The stranger followed silently, occasionally crouching, touching a part with fingers that seemed both gentle and exacting, eyes scanning for imperfections that most restorers would miss entirely. "You see this?" the man said softly, pointing to a small, almost imperceptible bend near the rear suspension mount. "It's subtle, but it's significant. It affects alignment, handling, and ultimately safety. Many would overlook it." Mick examined the bend, running his hands along the metal, feeling the difference in tension and structure. He recognized immediately that ignoring this flaw would have consequences, not just for the restoration, but for the driver who would eventually take the car out on the road. The awareness of unseen risk sharpened his focus. They worked for hours in this rhythm: inspection, analysis, correction, testing, discussion, each action precise, deliberate, and punctuated by the occasional observation from the stranger that forced Mick to reconsider assumptions and challenge habitual judgment. At one point, Mick paused to wipe sweat from his brow, scanning the partially disassembled Camaro. The engine had been removed, revealing internal wear, subtle cracks, and irregularities in the mounting points. It was clear that this project would not merely be about replacing parts, It would demand innovative solutions, careful planning, and the ability to anticipate hidden consequences. Engine mounts are compromised, Mick said, noting the faint hairline fractures. The stranger crouched beside him, tracing the metal with a fingertip. Yes, he said quietly. And it's easy to miss unless you know where to look. Blind spots are everywhere. The danger lies not just in the metal, but in perception itself. Restorers often trust what they see rather than questioning what they might be missing. Mick nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the statement. It was true, over the years, he had sometimes relied on instinct, experience, and habit, assuming that prior inspections had been sufficient. The stranger's words were a reminder that no process was infallible, that vigilance had to be constant, and that acknowledging potential blind spots was as critical as technical skill. As midday approached, they shifted focus to the body panels, identifying areas of corrosion hidden beneath old paint, previous repairs that had not adhered properly, and subtle warping in the metal that would affect fitment. Mick felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Excitement at the opportunity to tackle such complex challenges, apprehension at the realization that even the most skilled hands had limits and could overlook crucial details if distracted, fatigued, or overconfident. The stranger's presence was a constant stimulus, forcing Mick to examine everything with renewed intensity, to question assumptions, and to consider the unseen consequences of every decision. They took a break mid-afternoon, sitting on overturned toolboxes, sipping lukewarm coffee, and observing the lot. The conversation was sparse, deliberate, focused on philosophy as much as mechanics. "Why do you care so much about blind spots?" Mick asked finally, curiosity overcoming restraint. The man took a slow breath, eyes scanning the Camaro. "Because they reveal more than flaws," he said quietly. "They reveal priorities, assumptions, and vulnerabilities. In cars, a blind spot can cause failure. In people, it can cause decisions that undo years of skill and experience." Mick considered this. He had faced mechanical failures, budget constraints, and client demands, but rarely had he been challenged to examine his own perceptual limits. This was different. This was an exercise in awareness as much as restoration. They returned to work, now focusing on the alignment and frame reinforcement. Mick carefully removed compromised sections, the stranger observing silently, occasionally offering a precise word of instruction. Each cut, weld, and adjustment required exact calculation, and Mick felt the tension of responsibility pressing on him. Mistakes here could compound, creating further blind spots, and he understood that the margin for error was razor-thin. By late afternoon, they were examining the interior structure, assessing support beams, mounts, and reinforcements that had been neglected or poorly installed in prior modifications. Mick found small imperfections, microfractures that would have been invisible without deliberate testing, minor misalignments that could affect handling. The stranger's eyes caught these almost instinctively, and he pointed them out with subtle gestures, guiding Mick to recognize what might otherwise have been overlooked. "You see," he said, voice low, "it's not just about what's visible. It's about interpreting history, stress, and consequence. Each blind spot tells a story. Understanding that story allows you to correct, rather than merely repair." Mick absorbed the words, recognizing their truth not only in mechanical terms, but in broader application. Restoration, he realized, was a reflection of life itself. Awareness, observation, and careful attention to detail were as important as skill and effort. Evening approached, the sun casting long shadows across the workshop, highlighting the Camaro's stripped frame, the exposed metal, and the scattered tools. Mick stepped back, surveying the work done, and realized that the car had become a canvas of problem-solving, vigilance, and insight. He felt fatigue, but also a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing that every blind spot uncovered today had strengthened both the project and his own perception. The stranger remained quiet, leaning against a post, observing, evaluating, and occasionally nodding. Mick understood that his presence was more than supervision. It was a catalyst, a reminder, and a challenge. The day's work had not just been about restoration, it had been about awareness, anticipation, and the courage to confront hidden flaws. As the last light faded, Mick prepared to close the workshop, locking away tools, securing the workspace, and noting the areas that required attention tomorrow. The Camaro, partially restored, stood as a testament to effort, observation, and the ongoing confrontation with blind spots. Mick felt a renewed sense of focus, a recognition that each day brought new insights, challenges, and lessons. Walking home through the twilight streets, he replayed the day's events in his mind, noting the subtle cues, the moments of revelation, and the persistent awareness that unseen flaws could undermine even the most meticulous work. The stranger's words echoed in his thoughts. Blind spots were everywhere, in cars and in life, and vigilance was not a temporary state, but a constant discipline. Mick felt the stirring of resolve, a determination to approach each day, each project, and each decision with heightened perception, meticulous attention, and humility. And as he reached home, the night settling over Rust Valley, he understood that restoration was more than a craft, it was a continuous journey into observation, understanding, and the deliberate confrontation of every hidden challenge that might otherwise go unnoticed. Tomorrow would demand more, require more insight, and expose further blind spots, but Mick felt ready. The lessons of today, etched in metal, rust, and experience, would guide him, sharpen him, and prepare him for the complex dance between skill, perception, and the relentless truth of what was hidden, unseen, and waiting to be revealed. The next morning, a low fog clung to Rust Valley, wrapping the gravel lot in a damp, ghostly haze that made the scattered vehicles and half-finished restorations appear suspended between worlds, neither fully present nor entirely absent. Mick arrived early, as always, boots crunching softly on the wet gravel, the chill penetrating the layers of his worn jacket. The Camaro awaited, its exposed frame gleaming faintly under the gray light, a silent challenge and a complex puzzle demanding attention, skill, and insight. As he approached, he noticed subtle changes in the shadows, the way moisture highlighted imperfections in the metal, revealing flaws that had remained hidden even under bright sunlight. He shivered, not entirely from cold, but from a sense of anticipation, an unspoken awareness that today would bring both revelation and challenge. The stranger arrived shortly after, stepping through the mist with quiet confidence, eyes scanning the lot with the same meticulous intensity as before. There was no greeting, no preamble. He simply joined Mick at the Camaro, observing, waiting, prompting through mere presence rather than instruction. Mick felt the familiar tension tighten in his chest, the mixture of respect and apprehension that came from working alongside someone who could see the unseen, whose perception seemed to extend beyond what any ordinary mechanic could discern. "Let's begin with the alignment," the stranger said, voice low, deliberate. Mick nodded, lifting tools and preparing for the first adjustments. The morning hours passed in a rhythm of methodical inspection, calibration, and subtle correction. Every bolt tightened, every panel aligned, every component measured with precision, yet Mick was aware that perfection was not just technical, it was perceptual. The stranger's eyes, sharp and unblinking, caught nuances that Mick might have missed, guiding his attention to micro-flaws, almost imperceptible bends, and areas where stress had compromised integrity. Mid-morning, Mick paused, wiping sweat and condensation from his brow. "Why do you focus so much on what's barely visible?" he asked. The stranger crouched near the wheel well, tracing a line of corrosion with a fingertip. "Because the invisible dictates the visible," he said quietly. "Small flaws propagate. Minor oversights grow into critical failures. A blind spot, once ignored, can undermine everything else." Mick felt the weight of the words, recognizing their truth not just in mechanics, but in life, decisions, and perception. Restoration, he realized, was as much about seeing as it was about doing, about understanding history, context, and consequence. As they worked, Mick found himself re-examining every assumption. Panels that seemed solid revealed hidden weakness under light inspection. Bolts that appeared sound had microfractures in the threads. welds that seemed sufficient required reinforcement to ensure longevity. The stranger's presence was a constant stimulus, forcing Mick to perceive beyond habit, to anticipate what could be overlooked, and to consider the unseen ramifications of every decision. Around midday, a new complication emerged. Mick had been removing remnants of an old subframe when he noticed a series of small indentations, previously hidden under accumulated grime and paint layers. Tracing them, he realized they were not random. They formed a pattern, subtle but deliberate, indicating prior modifications, perhaps even tampering, that had gone unrecorded and unseen by previous restorers. He felt a chill of realization. The Camaro's history was more complex than he had imagined. "Look at this," he said, showing the stranger. The man's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, he smiled faintly, a mixture of approval and intrigue. "Interesting," he murmured. "Patterns like this tell a story. They're not just mechanical, they're behavioral. Decisions made, oversights committed, priorities revealed. And they're exactly the kind of blind spot most restorers would never notice." Mick's mind raced. He understood now that the project was no longer simply about restoration. It was an exploration, a forensic analysis, a confrontation with history and hidden intention. Every choice he made would reverberate, every correction a reflection of insight as much as skill. They spent the afternoon addressing the pattern of modifications, carefully dismantling compromised areas, fabricating reinforcements, and recalibrating components. Each adjustment demanded precision, not only in execution but in judgment. Mick felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety, the exhilaration of confronting a challenge that sharpened his mind and skills, the anxiety of knowing that a single oversight could compromise everything they had achieved. The stranger remained close, observing, occasionally offering a guiding comment, but more often simply prompting Mick to question, to consider, to reassess. There was an unspoken dialogue between them, conveyed through glances, gestures, and timing, a rhythm that demanded full engagement and constant awareness. By late afternoon, the frame was reinforced, alignment adjusted, and hidden weaknesses addressed. Mick stepped back, surveying the Camaro with a sense of cautious satisfaction. Yet, he could not shake the awareness that more blind spots remained, both in the car and within his own perception. He understood that mastery required humility, vigilance, and the willingness to accept that even expertise could be incomplete. As shadows lengthened, the stranger finally spoke, voice calm but deliberate. "Mick, today you've confronted not just flaws in metal, but flaws in attention and assumption. This is the essence of restoration, not merely replacing, but understanding, anticipating, and correcting before failure occurs. Blind spots exist in all things, and the skilled restorer sees them, even before they become obvious." Mick nodded, absorbing the weight of the words. He realized that today had been as much a mental exercise as a mechanical one, a test of observation, patience, and awareness. And yet, there was a lingering unease. Something in the stranger's presence suggested that this was not the full extent of the challenge, that more revelations, more blind spots, more subtle complexities awaited in the days to come. Evening fell, the mist returning, curling around vehicles and workbenches, and Mick prepared to close the workshop, cataloging the day's work, securing tools, and noting areas that demanded attention tomorrow. The Camaro, partially restored yet fully transformed in understanding, stood as a testament to effort, insight, and the continuous confrontation with blind spots, both mechanical and perceptual. Walking home, Mick reflected on the day's lessons. Every flaw, every subtle imperfection, every overlooked detail had been an opportunity for recognition, correction, and mastery. He felt a deepening resolve, a recognition that vigilance, skill, and humility were inseparable in the pursuit of excellence. And as the fog thickened over Rust Valley, he understood that restoration was more than technical ability. It was perception, awareness, and the deliberate acknowledgement of what is hidden, unseen, and often underestimated. Tonight, he would sleep lightly, alert to the insights gained and prepared to return with renewed focus, knowing that tomorrow would demand even greater scrutiny, intuition, and courage. The The Camaro and the stranger had revealed truths about metal, history, and human perception, and Mick recognized that mastery was an ongoing journey, shaped by attention to detail, understanding of consequence, and the continuous challenge of blind spots that could arise anywhere, at any time, and in any form. And in the quiet of Rust Valley, as stars began to pierce the night sky, Mick felt the stirring of anticipation, the readiness to confront each hidden challenge, and the unwavering determination to see, perceive, and restore not just cars, but the essence of vigilance itself, one blind spot at a time. The morning broke with a silver haze, dew glistening on the scattered tools and partially restored vehicles across Rust Valley, turning the familiar gravel lot into a landscape of reflections and muted light. Mick arrived with a sense of readiness, boots crunching against damp stones, already calculating the day ahead, mentally retracing the steps of the previous days, aware that the Camaro was more than a project, it was a test of perception, patience, and the ability to anticipate hidden flaws. The stranger arrived shortly after, moving with the same measured precision, scanning the lot as though it were a chessboard, every vehicle apiece with potential and threat. His eyes lingered briefly on the Camaro, then shifted to Mick, and in that glance, Mick felt both acknowledgement and challenge. "Today we focus on the drivetrain," the stranger said softly, voice calm yet authoritative, carrying the subtle weight of expectation. Mick nodded, feeling the familiar tightening of focus that came with complex work and close observation. They moved to the Camaro, lifting the engine carefully from its mounts, revealing the subtle wear, corrosion, and microfractures hidden beneath years of neglect and poorly executed repairs. Mick's hands worked methodically, testing each connection, inspecting each joint, noting areas requiring reinforcement, and anticipating complications that might arise from misaligned components. The stranger followed, observing silently, occasionally pointing to minute irregularities or suggesting adjustments that forced Mick to reconsider habitual methods, to analyze each step with heightened attention. Mid-morning, Mick paused, wiping grime and sweat from his brow, and reflected on the nature of the work. Every component revealed its history, previous repairs, modifications, and even attempts at concealment that told stories of prior owners' intentions, mistakes, and priorities. He realized that restoration was as much interpretive as it was mechanical. Recognizing patterns and subtle clues was essential to achieving not merely a functional vehicle, but one that honored its history while ensuring safety and integrity. "Look at this," Mick said finally, pointing to a small, nearly invisible crack along the transmission mount. "It's subtle, but it could affect performance, alignment, and longevity if ignored." The stranger leaned in, eyes narrowing, a faint smile playing across his lips. "Exactly. Most would overlook it. But these are the blind spots that define success or failure. Attention to what is barely visible separates mastery from mediocrity." Mick nodded, absorbing the weight of the statement. Each day, he realized, the challenge was not just the physical work, but the mental discipline required to recognize what was often ignored or unseen. The hours passed in a rhythm of careful inspection, incremental adjustments, and subtle recalibration. Mick tested torque values, alignment tolerances, and vibration responses, noting every anomaly, every irregularity, and every clue that could indicate underlying weakness. The stranger observed, occasionally offering insight in cryptic but precise language, guiding Mick's perception toward nuances he might have otherwise overlooked. By mid-afternoon, a complication arose. As Mick tested the transmission alignment, he detected an inconsistency, a slight misfit that could compromise both performance and safety. Tracing the source, he discovered a previous repair that had been inadequately executed, masked by paint and undercoating, a blind spot that could have caused catastrophic failure if left unnoticed. "This," Mick said, gesturing toward the mount, "was missed before. If it fails during operation, it could destroy the drivetrain." The stranger crouched beside him, fingertips tracing the subtle misalignment. "And this is why awareness matters," he said quietly. "Blind spots exist not just in metal but in perception. Recognizing them before they manifest is the difference between restoration and disaster. Mick felt a shiver of realization. The project was no longer merely a restoration. It had become a continuous exercise in perception, awareness, and the anticipation of failure. Every component, every fastener, every weld demanded scrutiny, and every oversight, no matter how small, could have cascading consequences. They continued their work, dismantling, reinforcing, and realigning components, testing repeatedly, measuring tolerances with precision, and cataloging each step. The stranger's presence was a constant challenge, a subtle push to see beyond the obvious, to anticipate what might be overlooked, and to confront the limitations of habitual judgment. Midway through the afternoon, Mick paused, looking at the partially reassembled drivetrain, noting the alignment, wear, and reinforcement applied. The complexity was staggering. Every decision carried implications, every correction revealed hidden truths, and every adjustment required careful consideration. The stranger's eyes followed his every movement, occasionally making a small gesture, a nod, or a subtle correction, silently reminding Mick that mastery was both a skill and a state of awareness. "You've done well," the stranger said finally, voice low and deliberate, "but remember, blind spots are persistent. Today's solutions may uncover tomorrow's challenges. Constant vigilance is the key." Mick nodded slowly, absorbing the significance. The day had been rigorous, mentally and physically, and yet he recognized the value in the lesson. Restoration was a continuous dialogue between observation, understanding, and action, and no matter how skilled, no one was immune to oversight. Evening approached, the lot bathed in muted orange light, tools scattered, components partially assembled, and the Camaro standing as a testament to effort, observation, and careful attention to detail. Mick secured the workshop, cataloging each step, noting areas for further inspection, and reflecting on the day's revelations. The stranger watched silently, the faintest smile acknowledging the work done, the understanding gained, and the subtle mastery emerging. Walking home, Mick felt a combination of fatigue, satisfaction, and heightened awareness. Every blind spot uncovered today had deepened his understanding, refined his perception, and strengthened both skill and intuition. He knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new hidden flaws, and further tests of vigilance, patience, and insight. And as stars began to pierce the evening sky over Rust Valley, Mick recognized that restoration was more than repairing metal and machinery. It was a discipline of awareness, a confrontation with the unseen, and a continual journey toward understanding. Perception and mastery, where every blind spot carried the potential for revelation, failure, or triumph. With each step toward home, he resolved to return with sharpened focus, ready to see what others might miss and to face the lessons that lay hidden in rust, steel, and experience, knowing that the path to true restoration was paved with observation, vigilance, and the courage to confront every blind spot. Dawn broke with a muted gray light filtering through the mist that hung over Rust Valley, softening the edges of the gravel lot and casting long shadows across half-restored vehicles. Mick arrived early, the familiar scent of damp earth and oil greeting him like an old companion. His boots crunched over stones, hands already itching to touch the Camaro, to continue the delicate process begun days ago. The car had become more than a project, it was a study in hidden flaws, perception, and patience. Mick felt the weight of responsibility in every step, knowing that each adjustment, each bolt, each measurement carried consequences beyond the immediately visible. The stranger appeared soon after, moving with a measured precision, scanning the lot, every vehicle, every detail as if he were reading a living blueprint of the workshop. His gaze settled briefly on the Camaro, then shifted to Mick, and in that glance lay both acknowledgement and challenge. "We focus on the electrical system today," he said quietly, voice calm but carrying subtle authority. Mick nodded, feeling a familiar tension rise. Electrical work required not just skill but foresight. A misconnection could cause cascading failures or mask hidden flaws. As they approached the Camaro, its wiring harness exposed and frayed from years of neglect, Mick felt a renewed sense of vigilance. Every connection, every relay, every wire held the potential to reveal the car's history or betray its integrity. They began systematically, tracing wires, testing circuits, and noting anomalies that indicated prior modifications or hidden damage. The stranger moved silently, observing, occasionally pointing out subtle inconsistencies, areas where insulation had been improperly replaced, connections soldered in a non-standard fashion, or hidden corrosion that could compromise performance. Mid-morning, Mick paused, examining a particularly intricate section of the harness. "Someone has bypassed this relay," he muttered, tracing the path of wires through the frame. "It's functional, but not correctly installed. Could cause issues down the line." The stranger crouched beside him, fingers hovering near the connections without touching them. "This is exactly why blind spots matter," he said softly. "Most would not notice until failure occurs. Awareness before action defines mastery, Mick. Every overlooked detail is a potential disaster waiting to happen." Mick felt the weight of the words, their truth resonating beyond mechanics. Blind spots were not just physical, they were perceptual, cognitive, and potentially catastrophic. Restoration was as much about seeing what others missed as it was about skill with tools. They worked through the morning with methodical precision, removing faulty wiring, fabricating new connectors, and meticulously routing each line to maintain integrity, safety, and historical accuracy. Mick's hands moved automatically, guided by both experience and the stranger's subtle cues, while his mind raced to anticipate hidden problems that might yet arise. Around midday, another challenge presented itself. Mick noticed a faint burn mark near the firewall, almost imperceptible beneath layers of grime and paint. Tracing it, he realized that a prior overheating incident had been concealed, evidence that could have been disastrous if ignored. This, he said, pointing to the affected area, was missed before. Could have led to serious failure. The stranger examined it, nodding slowly. And this is why vigilance is continuous. Blind spots are persistent. They can be hidden in plain sight, in assumptions, in familiarity. Recognizing them before they manifest is the difference between restoration and catastrophe. Mick understood immediately. Today's work was not merely about repairing or replacing, it was about anticipating, understanding, and mitigating risks that might otherwise remain invisible. Every wire, every junction, every hidden flaw required not just correction but comprehension. The afternoon passed in a rhythm of inspection, replacement, and testing. Mick traced circuits with precision, testing voltages, continuity, and resistance, ensuring that each connection met exacting standards. The stranger remained close, silent for the most part, occasionally offering a carefully chosen comment, nudging Mick to consider alternative perspectives or hidden consequences. Their combined efforts revealed further subtleties: wires routed too closely to metal surfaces, insulation worn through by vibration, and connectors stressed beyond tolerances. Each discovery reinforced the central lesson of their work. Blind spots existed everywhere, and the skilled restorer must perceive them before they reveal themselves through failure. By late afternoon, the electrical system was nearly rebuilt, fully functional, and far more robust than its previous configuration. Mick felt a mixture of fatigue, satisfaction, and heightened awareness. Each blind spot uncovered had been an opportunity for learning, every corrected flaw a testament to vigilance and skill. The stranger finally spoke, voice low and deliberate. "Mick, today you've confronted not just mechanical flaws, but perceptual blind spots. The unseen, the subtle, the ignored, all of it defines outcome. Remember this: restoration is never merely technical. It is anticipation, awareness, and deliberate correction of what is hidden." Mick absorbed the gravity of the statement. Today had tested not only his technical abilities, but also his observational acuity, patience, and interpretive insight. The day's lessons were clear: blind spots existed in everything, and mastery was inseparable from awareness. As evening fell, Mick secured the workshop, cataloging the day's work, noting areas that required further attention, and reflecting on the deeper lessons revealed by both the car and the stranger's guidance. The Camaro, now partially restored, stood as a testament to meticulous observation, careful correction, and the subtle confrontation with unseen flaws. Walking home through the quiet streets, Mick felt the familiar mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new hidden flaws, and further opportunities to confront perceptual blind spots. He recognized that restoration was a continuous journey, an unending exercise in awareness, skill, and anticipation, where every blind spot held the potential for revelation, failure, or triumph. And as stars began to appear in the clear night sky over Rust Valley, Mick felt a deep sense of resolve. He would return to the workshop with sharpened focus, prepared to see what others might miss and ready to confront the lessons hidden in rust, steel, and human perception. For the Camaro, for himself, and for the integrity of every restoration yet to come, vigilance would remain absolute, awareness perpetual, and the courage to face every blind spot unwavering. The following morning arrived shrouded in a thin layer of frost, the gravel lot of Rust Valley glinting under a fragile sun that promised clarity, yet carried the chill of lingering uncertainty. Mick walked into the workshop with an acute awareness, each step deliberate, each breath drawing in the crisp air, mixed with the metallic scent of oil, grease, and partially restored vehicles. The Camaro awaited, its frame more exposed than ever, a complex network of metal, wiring, and history laid bare, challenging every skill, instinct, and insight Mick possessed. The stranger arrived moments later, stepping through the pale light with his usual precision, eyes scanning the workshop and the lot beyond as if measuring, weighing, and cataloging each detail. His gaze lingered briefly on the Camaro, then shifted to Mick, carrying both assessment and unspoken expectation. Today, the stranger said softly, "We focus on the braking system. It is critical, yet easily compromised by unseen flaws." Mick nodded, feeling the familiar tension of anticipation tighten around his chest. Brakes were not merely functional, they were safety, reliability, and precision. Any hidden weakness, overlooked stress point, or subtle misalignment could result in catastrophic consequences. They began systematically, inspecting lines, calipers, rotors, and pads, noting signs of corrosion, wear, and previous repairs that had been inadequately executed. The stranger observed silently, occasionally gesturing toward areas that required heightened attention, prompting Mick to reconsider assumptions, examine subtle details, and anticipate the cascading effects of minor flaws. Mid-morning, Mick discovered a troubling pattern in the rear calipers, a combination of microfractures and improper lubrication that could compromise braking efficiency under stress. Tracing the issue, he realized that a prior owner or restorer had attempted a repair that superficially appeared sound but failed to address underlying weaknesses. This, Mick muttered, tracing the uneven surface, could have caused serious failure. The stranger crouched beside him, fingertips hovering over the components without contact, eyes narrowing. Exactly. And this is why blind spots matter. Most restorers would not detect this until a failure occurred. Awareness and preemptive correction define mastery. Mick absorbed the significance. Every component they addressed was more than metal and mechanism. It was a story of decisions, oversights, and hidden risk. Restoration, he realized, demanded an understanding that extended beyond the physical into perception, anticipation, and interpretation. They continued methodically, removing compromised parts, fabricating replacements, and carefully recalibrating each assembly. Mick felt a subtle shift in his awareness, his eyes now scanned for the nearly imperceptible, his mind constantly analyzing potential blind spots, and his instincts finely tuned to the silent cues that hinted at hidden flaws. Around midday, a new complication arose. Mick was examining a line near the master cylinder when he noticed a faint discoloration, a subtle warping that indicated previous overheating. It was a flaw easy to overlook, yet critical in terms of performance and safety. Here, Mick said, pointing, someone tried to conceal this. If it fails, it could compromise the entire system. The stranger examined it, nodding slowly, a slight smile playing across his lips. And this, he said softly, is why vigilance is continuous. Blind spots are persistent, hiding in plain sight, in familiarity, and even in confidence. Mick felt a mix of realization and respect. Today's work was not merely technical, it was a continuous exercise in awareness, anticipation, and risk mitigation. Every decision carried potential consequences, and every unnoticed flaw could escalate into disaster. The afternoon passed in a rhythm of meticulous inspection, measured adjustments, and repeated testing. Mick traced lines, verified torque values, tested hydraulic pressure, and ensured all components were aligned to exact specifications. The stranger observed, offering subtle cues, sometimes a guiding comment, often a silent nudge toward critical thinking. With each revelation, each correction, Mick's understanding deepened. The project was no longer just about restoring a car, it was an ongoing confrontation with blind spots, a mental exercise in perception, judgment, and anticipation. By late afternoon, the braking system was fully functional, robust, and safer than it had ever been. Mick stepped back, surveying the Camaro, noting every improvement, every correction, and every subtle insight gained. Yet, even as satisfaction washed over him, he felt the persistent hum of awareness. Blind spots still existed, in both the vehicle and his own perception. The stranger finally spoke, voice calm, deliberate, carrying both acknowledgement and weight. Mick, today you've confronted flaws in metal and mind alike. Blind spots exist in everything. Recognizing them, anticipating them, and correcting them before manifestation is the essence of mastery. Mick nodded, understanding the depth of the statement. The day had been demanding, mentally and physically, but its lessons were clear. Expertise alone was insufficient. Perception, vigilance, and humility were inseparable from skill. As evening settled over Rust Valley, the workshop bathed in the dim orange glow of fading sunlight. Mick cataloged the day's work, secured tools, and reflected on the subtle revelations hidden in metal, wiring, and mechanism. The Camaro, partially restored yet transformed in understanding, stood as a testament to meticulous attention, observation, and the ongoing confrontation with what was unseen. Walking home, Mick replayed each detail, each subtle indication, each lesson reinforced. Every flaw corrected today had strengthened both the car and his perception. Every blind spot uncovered had expanded his understanding of restoration as both craft and discipline. He realized that each day brought new challenges, new hidden complexities, and new lessons in awareness. Stars began to pierce the night sky over Rust Valley, sharp points of light reflecting the subtle patterns of observation he had learned to recognize in his work. Mick felt the familiar mixture of fatigue and exhilaration, knowing tomorrow would demand more, revealing yet undiscovered blind spots and testing both skill and intuition. Restoration, he understood, was more than technical ability, it was an exercise in awareness, anticipation, and constant vigilance. And as he reached home, he resolved to return to the workshop with sharpened focus, ready to see what others might miss, prepared to confront every hidden challenge, and determined to continue the unending journey of mastery, perception, and the deliberate acknowledgement of what is hidden, unseen, and potentially dangerous. The Camaro, the stranger, and Rust Valley itself had become a classroom without walls, a teacher without words, and Mick knew that true restoration required not just hands and tools, but insight, vigilance, and the courage to confront every blind spot. Morning descended over Rust Valley with a muted glow, the lot shimmering under a fine mist that blurred edges and softened contrasts, turning familiar machinery and vehicles into a landscape of mystery and latent potential. Mick arrived early, boots crunching over damp gravel, the familiar scent of oil, rust, and cold metal filling his senses. Today, the Camaro awaited his attention, more exposed and vulnerable than ever, its bare frame revealing not just mechanical challenges, but subtle histories, hidden weaknesses, and the unspoken stories of its past. The stranger arrived shortly after, stepping through the pale light with deliberate grace, eyes scanning the workshop and surrounding lot with a precision that unsettled and focused Mick simultaneously. His gaze lingered on the Camaro, then shifted to Mick, communicating evaluation, challenge, and a subtle demand for vigilance. "We continue with the interior and instrumentation today," he said softly, voice measured, calm, but carrying unspoken authority. Mick nodded, feeling a tightening in his chest. Interiors were not merely aesthetic. They were interfaces, conduits for control, perception, and functionality. Every wire, every gauge, every mechanical linkage hidden beneath trim or upholstery could carry flaws, overlooked issues, or hidden risks. They approached the Camaro together, removing panels, seats, and consoles, exposing a complex network of wiring, mechanical linkages, and concealed wear. Mick felt a renewed sense of scrutiny. Every inch of the interior demanded inspection, not only for function, but for the subtle clues it might reveal about prior use, neglect, or concealed damage. The stranger observed silently, occasionally pointing with a fingertip or adjusting his position to highlight anomalies, guiding Mick's perception toward details he might otherwise overlook. Mid-morning, Mick encountered the first significant challenge. Beneath the dashboard, he discovered frayed wires, poorly soldered connections, and evidence of heat damage, subtle, nearly invisible flaws that could compromise not only the instrumentation, but the operation of multiple systems simultaneously. "This wiring," Mick muttered, tracing the path with careful fingers, could have caused intermittent failures or even short circuits. The stranger crouched beside him, eyes narrowing. "Precisely. Blind spots exist not only in mechanics, but in perception, in the assumptions we make about what is sound. Detecting them before failure is essential. Restoration is as much foresight as it is skill." Mick absorbed the weight of the statement. Each flaw uncovered was not merely a mechanical problem, but a lesson in observation, anticipation, and cautious judgment. They worked methodically, dismantling compromised connections, repairing, and carefully rerouting wires to maintain integrity, reliability, and historical fidelity. As the morning progressed, Mick discovered subtle stress marks on seat mounts and under the console, evidence of prior impacts and compromises that had been superficially concealed. Each detail, no matter how minor, held implications for safety, functionality, and longevity. The stranger's presence was a constant stimulus, prompting Mick to question habitual assumptions, examine hidden patterns, and consider consequences that were not immediately visible. Around midday, a particularly subtle blind spot emerged. Mick noticed a slight misalignment in the instrument cluster, barely perceptible to the casual observer. Tracing the mechanism, he realized that the previous repair had failed to account for minor deviations in the frame and mounting brackets. Ignoring it could lead to inaccurate readings, miscommunication of critical information, and potential operational hazards. "This," Mick said, pointing, "may seem small, but it's significant." The stranger nodded, his gaze sharp. "And this is why vigilance is perpetual. Blind spots manifest in the overlooked, the assumed, the familiar. Mastery requires confronting what is unseen before it becomes obvious." Mick felt a surge of both respect and resolve. Restoration, he recognized, was a delicate balance of technical ability, observational acuity, and the courage to question assumptions, no matter how routine or seemingly trivial. The afternoon passed in a pattern of careful dismantling, inspection, repair, and recalibration. Mick traced wires, tested switches, verified gauges, and ensured all mechanical linkages were aligned to exact tolerances. The stranger observed, offering minimal commentary, his presence alone a constant reminder to remain vigilant, to anticipate failure, and to confront subtle flaws before they manifested as problems. Each discovery reinforced the core lesson. Blind spots were everywhere, in metal, mechanism, wiring, and perception. Ignoring them could compromise not just the restoration, but safety, performance, and integrity. By late afternoon, the interior and instrumentation had been meticulously restored, functional, and far more reliable than its original configuration. Mick stepped back, surveying the vehicle, the stripped interior now reassembled with care, precision, and awareness. Yet, a sense of lingering caution remained. Blind spots, he knew, persisted not only in the vehicle but in his own perception. Mastery required continuous vigilance, self-reflection, and the courage to confront uncertainty. The stranger finally spoke, voice low, deliberate, and carrying the weight of subtle authority. "Mick, today you've addressed not just flaws in mechanism, but flaws in assumption and perception. Blind spots exist in everything. Recognizing them, anticipating them, and correcting them before they manifest is the essence of true restoration." Mick nodded, absorbing the significance. The day had demanded skill, insight, and mental discipline, reinforcing the lesson that technical proficiency alone was insufficient. Mastery required vigilance, humility, and the ability to see beyond the obvious. As evening fell, the lot bathed in soft orange light. Mick cataloged the day's work, secured tools, and reflected on the revelations embedded in metal, wiring, and mechanism. The Camaro, now partially restored and meticulously inspected, stood as a testament to the ongoing confrontation with blind spots, the continuous refinement of skill, and the integration of observation with action. Walking home through the quiet streets, Mick replayed the day's events in his mind, noting subtle cues, lessons reinforced, and areas still demanding attention. Each correction, each insight, each blind spot uncovered strengthened both the vehicle and his perception, preparing him for the challenges yet to come. Stars began to pierce the night sky over Rust Valley, their cold points of light echoing the clarity of observation he had cultivated. Mick felt both fatigue and exhilaration, knowing tomorrow would reveal new hidden flaws and test his skills further. Restoration was no longer merely technical, it was perceptual, analytical, and ongoing. The Camaro, the stranger, and the lessons of Rust Valley had become a continuous classroom, teaching vigilance, anticipation, and the courage to confront what is unseen, uncertain, and potentially dangerous. And as Mick reached home, he resolved to return with sharpened focus, ready to perceive what others might miss, prepared to address every hidden challenge, and determined to continue the unending journey of mastery, awareness, and deliberate acknowledgement of every blind spot that lay in wait. The morning light filtered weakly through a low, drifting fog over Rust Valley, the workshop bathed in a gray haze that made every surface, tool, and vehicle appear both familiar and subtly altered, as if revealing details that only a vigilant eye could detect. Mick arrived early, boots crunching across the frost-speckled gravel, the scent of oil, rust, and damp earth anchoring him to the reality of work awaiting him. The Camaro stood in the center of the lot, its frame stripped to its essential components, revealing the complexity, history, and vulnerabilities hidden beneath layers of paint, grime, and previous restorations. The stranger appeared moments later, moving with deliberate, measured steps, scanning the workshop and surrounding vehicles as if reading a living blueprint, evaluating every detail with meticulous precision. His gaze settled briefly on the Camaro, then on Mick, a silent command and challenge conveyed without words. "Today," the stranger said quietly, voice calm but imbued with authority, "we focus on suspension and steering geometry. Subtle deviations here can compromise every aspect of handling and safety." Mick nodded, feeling a familiar tension coil in his chest. Suspension was not merely functional, it was the interface between vehicle and road, stability and control, comfort and performance. Every unseen flaw, hidden misalignment, or prior compromise could manifest as failure, danger, or diminished capability. They approached the Camaro together, lifting the partially restored frame to access suspension points, control arms, and steering linkages. Mick's hands moved with practiced precision, inspecting each joint, testing alignment, and noting irregularities that indicated stress, previous improper repairs, or hidden damage. The stranger observed silently, occasionally pointing out minute inconsistencies, subtle bends, or signs of fatigue that most would overlook, guiding Mick to see beyond habit and assumption. Mid-morning, Mick discovered a microfracture in a lower control arm, nearly imperceptible under casual inspection, but potentially catastrophic under load. Tracing its origin, He realized the previous repair had masked the defect, creating a blind spot that could compromise alignment, handling, and safety. "This is subtle," Mick said, tracing the fracture with a gloved finger. "Most restorers would miss it." The stranger crouched beside him, eyes sharp, a faint nod acknowledging recognition. "Exactly. Blind spots exist not only in mechanics, but in perception, in assumptions, and in familiarity. Recognizing them before manifestation is mastery." Mick absorbed the weight of the words, understanding that every component they addressed was a story of decisions, oversights, and hidden risks. Restoration, he realized, demanded an integration of skill, observation, and foresight. They continued methodically, replacing compromised parts, adjusting alignments, and reinforcing joints with precision. Every measurement was verified, every torque checked, and every assembly tested against standards that balanced historical authenticity with safety and reliability. Around midday, a particularly subtle issue emerged. Mick noted a slight variance in the steering rack mounting, imperceptible without careful measurement, but enough to cause uneven steering response, subtle vibrations, and premature wear. Ignoring it could compromise both performance and driver safety. "Here," Mick said, pointing to the mount, "it's easy to overlook, but it matters." The stranger examined it, voice low, deliberate. "And this," he said softly, "is why vigilance is continuous. Blind spots hide in familiarity, in assumption, in what seems routine. Confronting them before failure is essential." Mick felt a surge of determination. Today's work was not merely about replacing or repairing parts. It was a rigorous exercise in perception, awareness, and anticipation. Every flaw corrected strengthened not only the vehicle, but also his understanding, judgment, and mastery. The afternoon passed in a rhythm of careful inspection, adjustment, and iterative testing. Mick checked angles, alignment tolerances, and suspension travel repeatedly, refining the geometry, testing each correction for subtle effects, and ensuring the system operated within exacting standards. The stranger observed closely, offering minimal commentary, but silently enforcing high standards through presence, expectation, and subtle guidance. Each discovery underscored a central lesson. Blind spots existed everywhere, in metal, mechanics, wiring, and perception, and vigilance was the key to mitigating risk, ensuring integrity, and achieving mastery. By late afternoon, the suspension and steering had been meticulously restored, fully functional and significantly more reliable than the original configuration. Mick stepped back, surveying the Camaro, noting the improvements, corrections, and subtle lessons embedded in every joint, alignment, and assembly. Yet he remained aware that blind spots persisted, not only in the vehicle but in his own perception. Mastery, he understood, required continuous vigilance, humility, and the willingness to confront uncertainty. The stranger finally spoke, voice calm and deliberate, imbued with the weight of experience. "Mick, today you've addressed not just flaws in metal and mechanism, but perceptual blind spots. Every assumption challenged, every oversight corrected, every subtle defect identified contributes to true restoration. Awareness is as vital as skill." Mick nodded, understanding the depth of the statement. The day had been mentally taxing and physically demanding, yet the lessons were profound. Technical expertise alone was insufficient. Perception, anticipation, and humility were inseparable from mastery. As evening fell, the lot bathed in soft orange light. Mick cataloged the day's work, secured the workshop, and reflected on the insights embedded in metal, geometry, and observation. The Camaro, now partially restored with carefully aligned suspension and steering, stood as a testament to the meticulous confrontation with blind spots, the integration of perception with skill, and the ongoing journey of mastery. Walking home through the quiet streets, Mick replayed each subtle revelation, lesson learned, and correction applied. Every blind spot uncovered had strengthened both the vehicle and his own perception, preparing him for challenges yet to come. Stars appeared in the cold night sky over Rust Valley, their faint points of light mirroring the clarity of observation and the discipline required to see what others might miss. Mick felt a mix of fatigue and exhilaration, knowing that tomorrow would present new challenges, new hidden flaws, and further tests of vigilance and judgment. Restoration, he understood, was no longer merely technical. It was perceptual, anticipatory, and ongoing. The Camaro, the stranger, and the landscape of Rust Valley had become a continuous classroom, teaching vigilance, insight, and the courage to confront what is unseen, uncertain, and potentially dangerous. As Mick reached home, he resolved to return with sharpened focus, prepared to perceive what others might miss, ready to confront every hidden challenge, and determined to continue the unending pursuit of mastery, observation, and deliberate acknowledgement of every blind spot waiting to be revealed. The morning arrived with an unexpected chill, the frost lingering longer than usual over Rust Valley, dusting the gravel lot with a fragile crystalline layer that glinted faintly in the soft light. Mick stepped into the workshop, boots crunching softly, breath visible in the cold air, hands already itching to touch the Camaro, to continue unraveling the layers of history, neglect, and subtle flaws that made this restoration both a challenge and an education. The Camaro stood bare and exposed, a complex mesh of metal, wiring, and unseen stresses, revealing itself not just as a machine but as a living puzzle demanding observation, insight, and anticipation. The stranger arrived shortly after, moving with deliberate precision, eyes scanning the lot and vehicles with the sharp focus of someone who could read the story of every bolt, weld, and line of wiring. His gaze rested on the Camaro briefly before shifting to Mick, silently conveying both evaluation and challenge. "We focus on fuel delivery and engine calibration today," he said softly, voice measured but carrying authority. Mick nodded, feeling the familiar coil of tension in his chest. Fuel systems were deceptively complex. A minor flaw, a hidden obstruction, or an overlooked connection could compromise performance, efficiency, and reliability, even safety. They approached the Camaro together, lifting components, examining lines, filters, and injectors, tracing every path with meticulous care. Mick felt the pressure of scrutiny, the awareness that the stranger's presence was more than observation. It was a continuous, subtle demand for perfection, anticipation, and recognition of what might be easily missed. Mid-morning, Mick discovered a subtle kink in a fuel line, nearly imperceptible beneath layers of grime, but sufficient to restrict flow under load. Tracing its origin, he realized that prior modifications had introduced compromises hidden by paint, dirt, and corrosion. "This line," Mick muttered, tracing the metal, could easily cause intermittent performance issues or worse. The stranger crouched beside him, eyes narrowing with focused attention. "And this," he said softly, "is why blind spots matter. Not just in mechanics, but in perception. Recognizing what is easily overlooked defines true mastery." Mick absorbed the weight of the words. Restoration was more than replacing components. It was an ongoing exercise in vigilance, awareness, and anticipation. Every flaw uncovered was both a mechanical correction and a lesson in observation. They worked methodically, replacing compromised lines, cleaning passages, inspecting filters, and testing the integrity of the system under pressure. Each adjustment required care, foresight, and precise judgment. Around midday, Mick discovered another hidden issue, subtle wear on the throttle linkage, almost imperceptible to the casual eye, but sufficient to cause inconsistent response and potential engine hesitation. Ignoring it could compromise both drivability and performance. "Here," Mick said, gesturing toward the linkage, "it's small, but it matters." The stranger examined it, voice low, deliberate. "Exactly. Blind spots hide in the familiar, in what we assume is correct. Confronting them before they manifest is the hallmark of expertise." Mick felt a mixture of respect and resolve. Today's work was not merely mechanical, it was a mental exercise in vigilance, anticipation, and interpretive skill. Every observation, every correction, and every subtle discovery reinforced the ongoing lesson. Blind spots were everywhere, and mastery required continuous awareness. The afternoon passed in a rhythm of careful inspection, calibration, and repeated testing. Mick verified flow rates, measured pressures, checked injectors and lines, and ensured all components met exacting standards. The stranger remained close, observing, occasionally offering a brief comment or simply allowing Mick's awareness to sharpen under the pressure of silent scrutiny. Each correction revealed subtle patterns, previous oversights, and potential failures, reinforcing the notion that restoration was not simply a technical task, but an ongoing engagement with perception, intuition, and the courage to confront hidden truths. By late afternoon, the fuel system was fully restored, functioning reliably and exceeding original specifications in some aspects. Mick stepped back, surveying the Camaro, aware that while the mechanical integrity had improved dramatically, the lessons in observation, vigilance, and anticipation were equally significant. The stranger finally spoke, voice calm, deliberate, imbued with subtle authority. "Mick, today you've confronted not only mechanical flaws, but perceptual blind spots. Every oversight corrected, every hidden flaw revealed, strengthens both the vehicle and the restorer. Awareness is as vital as technical skill." Mick nodded, understanding the depth of the statement. The day had been mentally taxing and physically demanding, yet profoundly instructive. Expertise alone was insufficient. Perception, anticipation, and humility were inseparable from mastery. As evening settled over Rust Valley, the workshop bathed in the soft glow of fading sunlight, Mick cataloged the day's work, secured tools, and reflected on the hidden lessons revealed through metal, mechanism, and observation. The Camaro, partially restored yet transformed through meticulous attention and insight, stood as a testament to the ongoing confrontation with blind spots, the integration of observation with action, and the relentless pursuit of mastery. Walking home through the quiet streets, Mick replayed each subtle discovery, every correction applied, and every nuance of perception refined. Each blind spot uncovered had strengthened both the vehicle and his own understanding, preparing him for challenges yet to come. Stars began to pierce the cold night sky over Rust Valley, their sharp points of light reflecting the clarity of observation he had cultivated. Mick felt both fatigue and exhilaration, knowing that tomorrow would present new challenges, new hidden flaws, and further tests of vigilance, judgment, and perception. Restoration was no longer merely technical, it was perceptual, anticipatory, and continuous. The Camaro, the stranger, and the environment of Rust Valley had become a living classroom, teaching vigilance, insight, and the courage to confront the unseen, uncertain, and potentially dangerous. As Mick reached home, he resolved to return with sharpened focus, ready to perceive what others might miss, prepared to address every hidden challenge, and determined to continue the unending pursuit of mastery, awareness, and deliberate acknowledgement of every blind spot awaiting revelation.